Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hi. You can unmute for a while and chit chat if you want. If not, that's quite all right as well.
Hey, Ashley,
Hi.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Louisa.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Where are you? You look like in a big warehouse.
I'm at work on set actually.
Oh, yeah? What are you shooting?
I'm shooting She the People with Tyler Perry.
Okay. Yeah. Are you going to be able to be there for the whole time?
I should be.
Okay.
We're
All right.
in kind of like in between. I just finished footage, so it's probably what, an hour?
I'm thinking it's going to be longer than that. The script is
Can you
100
hear me?
pages. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if
Oh, okay.
watching the movie is about an hour and a half, much less reading it. It's going to take a little bit longer. Yeah, so you're reading the whole, we're reading the whole
Yeah,
script.
I was wondering that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're reading the whole script. So Mm. So are you shooting background on it? On your show, Louisa? She heard me. Hi, Lexi. You can unmute for a little while
Hello.
while we're waiting for everybody. I'm here early.
Early birds
Hello.
get the worm.
What's that?
Early birds get the worm.
Right? I'd rather be early testing everything and versus feeling rushed. I hate feeling rushed.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't like it. Remember my very first audition in New York when I moved to New York. Hi, Monique.
Hi.
Was up at Columbia University and I got so lost. And I showed up. I was late. And I'm never late. I was like 20 minutes late. I showed up. I'm crying because I was just lost in upstate New York, not upstate New York, but up, in New York City. I was like 20 years old, was freaking out. The poor casting director's like, "You need some time." I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
School kids.
It was
Any
awful.
other school kids here?
So I'm gonna have to move.
Yeah, you might have
I'm
to
trying
mute
to get my
until you're
yeah.
ready.
I'm trying to get my earpiece connected.
How are
I'm
you,
sorry.
Monique? What are you up to?
I'm good. I just try to, like the last hour, just trying to get everything organized just so I wouldn't be like scrambling last minute with the video because I'm not techie.
Uh-huh.
I struggle. So yeah. So yay, I made it. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Awesome. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
I also printed out the script in front of me, but I also have it on my computer. So which would you prefer?
It's up to you. It's to me, it's going to be hard to see, and if the script is on the computer, it would be hard for me as an actor to be looking whom I'm reading with. So I have it printed so that I
Okay.
can do that, but it's a table read, so you can look down and read it. It's fine.
Okay.
I would rather you be able to look down and read it and watch your scene partner.
Okay.
But it's up to you, however you've got it set up.
Yeah, no, I feel better reading it. I like to have stuff printed out and
Yeah,
yeah.
me too. I always recommend printing sides. I know it's the day and age where you can have it on an iPad, you could have it anywhere, and we're reading on our computers, right? All of that kind of stuff, but printing out your sides. And Monique, we talked about this in our audition review. It is a lot less confusing to a casting director if you're looking at your sides and it's on paper, we know what's going on. But if it's on the computer, we're sitting there going, what are you looking? You know, it's just it's very confusing.
Yeah.
So, and then you can use your sides as props a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like your sides for Monique, your scene could have been your hat. And I've got the damn thing right in my hands. Your sides are your hat, you know, it could
Right.
be anything. Endow it with anything.
Yeah.
So, we got a big crew coming on, so just being patient, waiting for everybody.
This is exciting. This is it's my first like feature length table read.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited about it
Mhm.
just because it's new
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah. We used to do these with plays all the time when I was in LA. My acting, like
Oh.
fellow students with acting school, we got together like once a month and we'd pick a play and we'd all meet up and we'd just read the play and cast ourselves in it and read it just to study it. So I wanted to
Yeah.
do that with screenplays and I was like, why not?
Yeah, this is
Why
great.
not just offer it as a service through my school, because it helps me too. Like I'm studying the scripts just along with you guys. So
And I know like I've seen the movie when I was a kid,
no, I
but
didn't see the movie. I don't do horror films.
oh, well, when I was a kid, I saw I think all of them, all the Freddy
All the
Krueger.
Freddys.
Yeah, but man, it's been so long and it's like I don't remember any of I'm like I remember something like I remember the tub where she gets sucked in. I remember that. And I was like, "Oh my God." I remember like the part where they go into the bed and they go
Mm-hmm.
like down below. I remember like watching that, but like I don't remember the mom. I don't remember certain things. So,
No, I don't do horror films. Never ever seen any of the Freddy or Jason like none of them. I don't. I know sorry, Lexi's like, what? No. So this was the first time me reading the script was the first time and to me, it's like I can do the script because it's my own imagination,
yeah.
right?
Love that.
Versus
Yeah.
like, see,
Yeah.
you know, like even just like thinking about it, like I get butterflies in my tummy. They're not for me. I don't like them. But it's
This is
Halloween month, so it's like it's got to be we've got to do Halloween script.
Perfect.
We've got to do horror films during October because it's October. My husband's delighted. He loves horror films. Hi, Brandi. You're muted still, babe.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, you look pretty in pink.
Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I will say
Good.
I'm even a little nervous because it's the Desert Playhouse's first table read, you know, in the series. And so I want it to go well and I want all of you guys to have learned something. And so I'm a little bit nervous too.
Yeah, I bet.
You don't have to be. You don't have to be.
Well, thank you. I want you all to get so much value out of it. So I really care, don't I, Brandi? I really care about my students.
Oh,
I hope
yeah, she
you
does.
guys to learn
Yeah.
so much and just be successful. So Oh yeah,
Exciting.
little bit. And then of course I'm a little bit nervous for a couple of folks. I'm hoping they actually show up. Oh.
Oh, you're afraid there's some people that won't come?
Mm-hmm. Just because
Well,
of
that's,
the lack of communication type thing
yeah,
makes
yeah.
me nervous. So we'll see. They're auditioning for me too. It's like, you know, I know how that works.
Yeah.
Ashley, are you in California?
No, I'm in Phoenix.
Oh, you're in Phoenix. Okay,
Mhm,
great.
mhm, mhm.
Awesome. So is everyone here in Phoenix?
No,
Okay.
no. Brandi is.
I'm in Phoenix.
Lexi, where are you, Lexi?
I am in the Chicago region. I typically try to cast out between St. Louis to Indiana. I live on the coast. I'm in Hammond, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay,
I audition up in Chicago, but I also traveled to St. Louis sometimes.
awesome. And Louise is out in Atlanta.
Yes, yes. I'll
Hi.
be actually in Arizona in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah? What are you doing in
Yeah, I'll be there
Arizona?
in 2 weeks. Getting away from this weather. The
Well,
weather is
girl,
breaking here.
it has not been
I
good right now. It
It's
is
bad.
it's like
What's
this weekend was
going on?
117
Awful.
degrees this weekend.
Yeah.
17.
117, 3 digits with a
Oh, I'm
number
good
in the
with that.
10th
I don't come
place.
out till night.
It was not fun.
Look, I don't come out till night. I'm good with that. I like the heat.
Well, hopefully, I mean, by
I
in 2
hate it
weeks
when the
it should
temperature
cool it back
changes.
down. It's
Yeah.
been miserable.
Yeah.
Hi,
I feel like it
Leila.
gets harder every year.
I'm
Hey
excited.
guys.
It
Just put
does,
new pictures
yeah.
in that shirt, didn't you? I saw you post on Instagram.
Yeah, I did. Actually, I just got my new headshots.
Yeah, I saw them and they look really pretty.
Thank you.
We're just visiting, waiting for everybody. So just hanging out. We got, well, only 3 more minutes, so hopefully more people pile in. Charles said he was going to be a few minutes late because his drop-off schedule with his daughter. But he should be in soon. There's Evan. Let me just do some attendance real quick. Nancy is here. Marge is here. Rod is here. Tina's here. And Louisa is here. Hey, hi, Evan. Oh, there's teacher.
Grab a pen.
Water would have been a good idea. I probably should do that.
Yeah, grab some water.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Right.
Grab some water. Hey, Marilyn. Hi, Stephanie.
Table read.
We're just getting everybody in, chatting for just a bit. Just Marilyn, where are you? Marilyn's here. Still quite a few folks that we're waiting on, so give them another minute or two. There's John.
Brandi and Evan.
Here.
So like I said, it's my first table read in over a year.
Turn enough of the
In a
background
year?
noise out.
Over a year. I graduated from my college. I graduated with performing specialization in performing arts, but I have a degree in the arts. And I graduated in the year of 2023, but I had to go inactive for a year because I had an accident on my graduation day.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Electric scooters, if they fold, don't get them.
Oh boy.
No, they don't. They're pretty dangerous.
Yep, it was my last finals. I had a few scenes to do. Broke my arm and I had to go inactive. And the next thing I did was, a good thing I was already cast. in Matilda the musical for that July.
Yeah, but then you're cast in a musical and you're injured.
I had the auditions were before I had gotten injured.
Oh,
And
okay.
then technically I was healed and in my last stages of recovery by the time the actual rehearsals were there.
Yeah, well, that's good. At least there's that. Hi, everybody that's coming on. We're just waiting for a few more. We're looking for Keith. We're looking for Skyler, Samuel, Cole, and Jean. Hopefully they come on in the next minute or two. And then we'll get started. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good? I'm a little bit nervous. I was telling the girls that we're here early just because it's our first one. And yes, Stephanie, that's fine. And I want this to go well, obviously for the school, but I also want you guys to get so much out of it and want you to have fun. And so just me as the organizer, I'm a little nervous too. So I hope it's fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. But let's see, we need Keith, still waiting for Keith, Skyler, and Samuel. There's Jean, Mitt. Here. Hey. Hi, Jean. Let's see, Keith. I'm gonna text folks. Skylar. I need to email them. Nobody else yet? Ooh, that just came on. Who's Jacqueline? Oh, Jacqueline is a viewer. She's participating. Hi, Jacqueline. Let's see. We need Keith and Skylar. And who else is not here? Let's see. Okay. We still got a few more people, but I'm going to go ahead and get started with the introductions and all of that kind of good stuff. While we're waiting on them, I emailed them. So hopefully they'll come on quickly. Hi, everybody. I'm Ashley. I'm your host, I guess, for lack of a better word. I am Ashley Atwood. I am an Emmy-nominated actress and producer. And I lived out in New York for a good amount of time where I studied and then moved to LA for quite a bit of time. And now I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, where I am the director of the Desert Playhouse, which is a new acting school that not only teaches the craft of acting, but also the business of show business. So that's how this series came about. This is the Desert Playhouse Presents Series, and twice a month we're going to be doing a table read so that we could all get together and study screenplays, right? Maybe they're pilots, maybe they're features. They're all going to have different themes every month so that we can grow as actors and grow our community as well, because Stephanie, like being a part of a community of fellow actors is huge. So as we grow this community, we grow in strength, etc. So that's what we're doing with this Um, I do offer audition reviews. Some of you have been able to take advantage of your free audition review. Who here's gotten one, and did you find any value in it? Yeah, you guys enjoyed them? I enjoyed giving them. We were able to really get in moment by moment and look at what we could have done differently, choices that we could have made that were stronger, and technical issues maybe with eye lines or lighting or any of those kinds of things. So if you haven't taken advantage of your free audition review, I highly recommend it. You only get one, but if you want more as the series goes on, it's a coaching session. I'm happy to give you tips and pointers on that as a coaching session. So just give it a holler there. And then of course, we'll go over all of the other classes that we offer at the end, because the Desert Playhouse, again, does have awesome classes available for you. Let me introduce our special guest right now. Stephanie Massman is my manager at the Parmeter Group. She's also Evan's manager. Evan got picked up by my amazing talent manager. She loves to recruit from the Desert Playhouse because we're awesome. So she wanted to come and say hi. She may not be able to stay the whole time, but she will be watching the review to see if there's any new talent that she'd like to scoop up. Stephanie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you all. Happy, I don't know, what are we in November now? October.
October, yeah.
Yeah, God, so crazy. I'm here in LA, born and raised here. I've been in this business pretty much since I was 18 years old. I've worked in casting. I've worked as an agent and now manager. So for many, many, many years. I just want you to all know, I mean, I think you know already, but you're so fortunate to be working with Ashley. She is one of the most talented actresses I know. And the fact that she's doing this and giving her heart to you guys, please, I hope you understand how awesome it is. And I'm really excited to be part of this Desert Playhouse. When she had told me about the idea, I was like, I'm in, I want to be part of this, because I think that in this business, especially in LA, there's a lot of scams out there, a lot of people who will try to take advantage of you. And Ashley's not about that at all. I mean, she truly has such a deep desire to help actors, and she's the real deal. So I just want to say, how great it is to be a part of this. I can only be here till 9:30, but I'm very excited to see Brandi and Evan and Charles and the people that I met at boot camp. That was so fabulous. And yeah, I'm sorry I can't stay the whole time, but I'll watch the tape when it's over.
Playback.
So, the playback.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you, Stephanie. Thank you for popping in and saying hello. Now,
Thank you.
I want everybody to introduce themselves. I'm putting a lineup basically in the chat for you guys. What waiting room participants not in this meeting? What does that mean? Oh, sorry. Send the chat to everybody. Meeting group chat. Okay, so just follow the order that's in there. Say your name, your role, and where you are from. Okay, Leila, you're first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leila. I'm playing the role of Nancy Thompson, and I am currently living in Phoenix, Arizona. Gonna be moving out to LA soon, so that'll be my new location. But as of right now, I'm in Phoenix, and I'm super excited to be here today and work with all you guys.
Monique, you don't have to wait for me to call you. It's in order, so just go in order.
Oh, okay. My name is Monique Michelle. I'm playing the role of Marge, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I've been here most of my life.
Hi.
Oh.
Hi.
I'll go first. Okay. Hey, my name is Grant. I'll be playing Glen, and I'm from Phoenix.
Hi, my name is Evan Hamilton. I'll be playing the role of Rod and Lane, and I'm located in Dallas, Texas.
Hello, my name is Alexis Stevens. I will be playing Tina Gray, and I am from Hammond, Indiana.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jon Carlson from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'll be playing Lieutenant Don Thompson.
Keith is not here, so we may have to recast this. We might, let me take a look and get Parker, Wise Guy, and Foreman recast, okay? Go ahead, John.
Hi, my name is John Rico. I am in Avondale, and I am playing the role of Sergeant Garcia, undoubtedly the lead role in this, but we'll just leave it at that. But nice to meet you all.
Yes. My name is Skyler Yuda. I'll be playing the newscaster, Freddie Krueger, some of the kids, and Johnny Carson himself.
I'm Brandi Bell. I'm playing the teacher and coroner, and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona.
I'm Charles Babler. I'm from Tacoma, Washington, and I get to bury Evan. So I'm playing the minister and Mr. Lantz.
Samuel?
Hi, my name's Samuel El-Sadi, and I'll be playing Dr. King and Tina's boyfriend.
Tina's
And I'm from
mom's boyfriend.
Oh, Tina's mom's boyfriend.
Yeah, Tina's mom's boyfriend.
And I'm located in Phoenix currently.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Swick. I'll be playing the role of Mrs. Lantz in Hall Guard, SAG-AFTRA, Scottsdale, Arizona.
Everybody? No. Keep going. Louisa, you're next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm Louisa Bohannon. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'll be playing the cop. Nice to meet everyone.
Jean? Can't hear you. You gotta unmute.
Hello, hi, my name is Jing Yu. I'm from China. I'm going to play Tina's mom.
Jean. Okay. And then hi, I'm Ashley. I'm going to be your narrator today. So here we go. I'm going to recast a couple of parts here. Oh, there's Keith. Ooh, he almost got recast. Keith, you almost got recast, my friend. Unmute, introduce yourself, what role you're playing, and where you live.
I'm Keith. I'm playing Parker, the foreman, and the wise guy. I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. All right. Let's be on time next time, okay? Because it's 13 minutes late. I almost had to recast you. Jean, will you do me a favor? Can you read another part for me?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to read the surfer.
The surfer?
The surfer dude. He's a teenager, but you're going to be like a teenage girl surfer dude. Okay?
All right.
I know that you're not prepared and it's going to be cold, and that's quite all right. Just do the best you can, okay?
Okay.
You got this. You got this. All right. Any questions before we begin? Y'all ready to do it?
Bathroom breaks. How do those work? You just leave?
I've got a timer set for 1 hour.
Okay.
And so if we need to take a quick break, we'll do a quick break. And I've got a timer set for every hour to like kind of take 5 if we need it. Sound
That's
good?
a great question. Thank you for asking. I was embarrassed to ask.
That sound good? Anybody else? Lexi, you have a question?
For this table read, are we following the narration's instructions, like Tina has a secretary to push her hands over her ears, or are we just letting that be read?
That's up to you. If you want to embody what is being read as narrations, then go right ahead. If there are like Tina screams and you want to do a little scream, then do a scream, right? So that's up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Jacqueline, did you have a question? Are you just saying hi? You're unmuted. camera went off. I see you, Charles. Give me a sec. See what she's got. No? Still can't hear you, Jacqueline. Charles, why don't you go ahead with your question while she's trying to figure out sound?
When they're reading their parts, do you want the other people that if they're not reading to keep camera off or on? Does it matter?
I want everybody's cameras on, but be muted if you've got long breaks between your scenes. Okay, but I want everybody's cameras on and I want you watching and paying attention because you will learn from each other. There's some more advanced actors on here and some brand new actors on here. Okay, so I want you to learn from each other. All right? Jacqueline, did you get your sound? Did you want to ask your question? No? Okay. Well, you can type it in if you need to. Okay, but let's get started. Here we go. A Nightmare on Elm Street, written by Wes Craven. Copyright New Light Cinema, courtesy of Nightmare on Elm Street Films.com. This is not for profit. This is a class. Just putting that out there since it is being recorded and will be on the YouTube channel for you guys' viewing needs. All right. Interior montage. Nightmare music theme begins as we fade up on a series of shots, all close and teasing. A man's feet in shabby work shoes, stalking through a junk bin in dark, firelit, ash-dusted place. A huge boiler room is what it is, although we only glimpse it piecemeal. Then we see a man's hand, dirty and nail-bitten, reach into frame and pick up a piece of metal. Another angle as the hand grabs a grimy work glove and slashes it with straight razor until his fingertips are off. Close on the same hands, dumping 4 fishing knives out of a filthy bag. Their blades are thin, curved, and gleaming sharp. More angles, even closer. We can hear the man's wheezing breathing, but we still haven't seen his face. We never will. We just see more metal being assembled with crude tools into some sort of linkage. A splayed, spidery sort of apparatus against a background light of fire and a deep rushing steam and heavy, dark energy. And then we see this linkage attached to the glove, then blades attached to all of it. Then the man's hand slips into the glove-like apparatus, filling it out and transforming it into an awesome, deadly claw hand with 4 razor talons gleaming at his blackened fingertips. Suddenly, the hand arches and strikes forward, slashing through a dark canvas, tearing it to shreds. Exterior, Los Angeles, night. A pulsation of light and shadow. Music drops to a hushed, rushing wind and distant sirens. Camera racks to focus on a high panorama of the San Fernando Valley, its night sky lit from within by a strange greenish light. Titles begin. Camera tilts down and zooms swiftly into the valley's web of light. Interior concrete passageway. Title continues as Tina Gray, a strong girl of 15 in a thin night shift, moves towards us down a dark concrete corridor. Her steps quicken as titles appear in the portion of frame and she leaves free. A subliminal collage of sound threads in and out of the music, distant, insane laughter, slamming iron doors, a bleeding animal cry, a lamb, white and blank-faced, skitters across her path into the dark, no reason why it's there. Then another sound, much nearer, the slithering scrape of something like fingernails across slate. It sets our teeth on edge, twists the music, and sends Tina running. Interior boiler room. Suddenly, Tina's a tiny figure running among huge boiler steam pipes and catwalks, a shadowed forest of iron and stone. She stops, listening intently as the sound of tiny hooves suddenly turn into rattled, distant rain. She hears ripping fabric, someone shouldering behind a ragged screen of dirty canvas approaching Tina. Closer on the canvas, a long curved finger blade suddenly punched through, flashing in the firelight, begin ripping through the thick fabric as easily as scalpels through flesh. They make a hideous, extended ripping sound. Tina rushes away, her hands over her ears. Another angle as the blinded girl stumbles backwards, then the canvas flaps free. The blades are gone. The titles end and everything goes silent. Camera circles until Tina's looking right into our eyes. The light from a nearby boiler pours through her thin nightdress, leaving her naked and vulnerable. Then a deep, ragged voice whispers as the camera closes in on her face. That's
Do
you,
we-
Freddie. Freddie, that's you. Freddie, did you say your line?
Oh, I'm sorry. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Tina opens her mouth to scream, but only a dry yellow dust pours out. And that precise moment, a huge, shadowy man with a grimy red and yellow sweater and a weird hat pulled over his scarred face lunges at her. And it's his fingers that are tipped with the long blades of steel, glinting in the bony light and giving the Hulk the look of an otherworldly predator. Tina dodges her way, her legs suddenly elephantine and slow. The man seizes the trailing hem of her nightgown and hauls her back. The music shrieks as Tina manages to tear free. The man lurches after her with a hoarse shout as we smash cut to interior Tina's bedroom night. Tina convulses in the bed with a scream, looking around wildly. Someone is knocking on her door. Tina's mom.
Oh, so okay. So you okay? Tina?
Tina's mother sticks her head with a worried look. Tina sits up and blows out a breath, groggy.
Just a dream, Ma.
More to herself.
Damn dream is all.
The woman, once attractive, ventures into a room. The man hovers in a man hovers background. Tina's mother waves him away without looking, shoving a strand of bleached hair from her eyes. She appraises her daughter.
Some dream. Judging from that.
She nods at Tina's night shift. Tina looks down at her nightgown, now only aware of the chill penetrating it from the room. There are 4 long slashes up its middle, cleanly cut, as if by scalpers. Distant and unmoved.
You coming back to the sack or what?
Hold your horses.
Lower to Tina as she stands to leave.
You gotta cut your nails or stop that kind of dreaming, Tina. One or the other.
The woman shuts the door behind her. Tina looks back at the nightgown, low to herself.
Oh, shit.
She suddenly snatches up the cross that hangs up over her bed, her face white as a sheet. Fade to black. Burn on the first day. Children singing.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, grab your crucifix.
Exterior high school day. Fade up on a shot of the large high school and its crowds of students. Foreground, Tina climbs out of a cherry red 1959 Cadillac convertible with 2 other students, her best friend, Nancy Wilson, and Nancy's boyfriend and owner of the car, Glen Lantz. Foreground, several grade schoolers are playing jump rope, and the old ditty they sing continues unbroken from Tina's bedroom.
7, 8, gonna stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep again.
Moving angle favoring Nancy. She's a pretty girl in a leather sweater with an easy athletic stride and the look of a natural leader. Glen, holding her hand, wears one of the school's football jerseys. A good-natured, bright kid. Tina's in mid-conversation, referring to the kid song. Unmute, you guys. Be prepared, ready for your cues. Unmute.
That's what it reminded me of. That old jump rope song.
Shuddering.
Worst nightmare I ever had. You wouldn't believe it.
Nancy nods.
Matter of fact, I had a bad dream last night as well. Myself.
Tina turns to Nancy, but before either can say more, Rod Lane, a lean Richard Gere sort in a black leather and new wave studs, join up with them and interrupts to Tina.
Had a hard on this morning when I woke up, Tina. Had your name written all over it.
Tina cracks her gum with a look of withering indifference.
There's 4 letters in my name, Rod. How could there be room on your joint for 4 letters?
The guy is stopped in his tracks.
Hey, up yours with the twirling lawnmower.
He cuts it off across the lawn.
Rod says the sweetest things.
Yeah, he's nuts about you.
Yeah, nuts.
Tina makes a face and rakes her fingernails across the tree as she passes, yawning.
Anyway, I'm too tired to worry about the creep. Couldn't get back to sleep at all.
Beat.
So, what do you dream?
Forget it. The point is, everybody has nightmares once in a while. No biggie.
Next time you have one, just tell yourself that's all it is, right while you're having it, you know? That's the trick. Once you do that, you'll wake right up. At least that works for me.
Tina looks at Glen sharply. He kisses Nancy and darts off for class.
Hey, you have a nightmare too?
But Glen's gone.
Maybe we're gonna have the big earthquake. They say things weird happen just before that.
Bells are ringing and students are crowding. Tina and Nancy are drawn into the crush. Fade to black. Exterior, Valley Street, night. Angle on a modest home. No car, just a couple of bikes in the drive. Every light in the house and yard is turned on. We hear the rock group Madness playing at a no adults home volume. Interior, Tina's living room, night. On Glen, dialing. Nancy and Tina are watching, giggling.
I can't believe his mother let him come over here.
Right. Well, she didn't exactly.
Glen shoves a cassette into Tina's ghetto blaster to Tina.
See, I got this cousin who lives near the airport that it's okay if I stay with, right? So I found the sound effects tape at Licorice Pizza. And
The phone is answered. Glen jerks the tone off the record with a skr.
hello, Mom?
Pushes the play button.
Yeah, out here at Barry's.
A jet plane begins to make itself heard on tape. Glen moves the machine closer to the phone. It's a big plane. Sounds like a 747 coming in for landing.
Huh, yeah, noisy as usual. Glad we don't live here, huh? Yeah, Aunt Eunice says hello.
The jet is screaming in now, full of flaps and howling like a monstrous banshee. Nancy and Tina dissolve into muffled giggles, shouting over the din.
Right. I'll call you in the morning, right? Huh? Yeah, sure.
Suddenly, the tape goes silent. Glen blanches. Next moment, another engine is heard, but this one is a Ford Lotus screaming by at 180 miles per hour, reacting to his mother's reaction.
Some kids drag racing outside, I think.
The sound effects changes abruptly as speeding sedan and the ages-old screech of brakes, last-second scream, and a horrible collision. Nancy gamely tries to find the right button to turn it off, but misses. There's a loud screech and fast-forward mayhem. Glen improvises desperately.
Listen, Mom, I gotta go. Accident out front.
Nancy jumps back from the cassette player. World War II bursts out of the top volume. Machine guns, hand grenades, diving bearcats, and shouts of charging Huns. Glen makes a last-ditch dive and flings the cassette out of the machine. Blessed silence at last.
Right, I'll call the police. No, just some neighbors having a fight, I guess. I'm fine. Call you in the morning.
He hangs up and sags back.
Worked like a charm.
Jesus.
Tina shoves another cassette in and Michael Jackson's Thriller blasts from the stereo. The kids relax and the camera glides past them to the window. The wind is moving at the bare tree branch outside. Camera pans back to the comfortably threadbare room, uneasy. We see Nancy poking at a flame in the hearth as Tina comes foreground to draw the drapes.
Nice to have a fire.
Really? Turn her up a little.
Nancy turns a nearby valve handle and the gas fire climbs brightly over the artificial log. Tina joins her, heartened.
Maybe we should call Rod. Have him come over too. He might get jealous.
Rod and I are done. He's too much of a maniac.
You should join the Marines. They could make something out of him. Like a hand grenade.
Tina laughs despite herself. Nancy brightens.
See? You've forgotten all about the bad dream. Didn't I tell you?
Tina shakes her head, wishing she had forgotten.
All day long, I've been seeing that guy's weird face and hearing those fingernails.
Nancy looks up with a flinch.
Fingernails?
Blinks, laughing.
That's amazing that you say that. It made me remember the dream I had last night.
Tina looks up.
What you dream?
I dreamed about this guy in a dirty red and yellow sweater. I dream in color, you know. He walked right into the room I was in. Right through the wall. Like it was smoke or something. And kind of just stared at me. Sort of obscenely. Then he walked out through the wall on the other side. Like he just come to check me out.
Story has left the room deathly quiet. Especially Tina seems affected. Quietly.
So, what about the fingernails?
Nancy remembers imitating the frightful coincidence.
Scraped his fingernails along things. Actually, they were more like finger knives or something. like he'd made them himself. Anyway, they made this horrible noise.
Imitating. Tina pales.
Nancy, you dreamed about the same creep I did, Nancy.
The girls stare at each other.
That's impossible.
They look at him. He looks away as if suddenly listening.
What?
Nothing.
There's somebody out there, isn't there?
I didn't hear anything.
Then there's an unmistakable sound, the distant scraping against the house, just outside the window. Something multiple, thin and sharp, something like metal fingernails. Nancy's mouth opens a fraction of an inch. Exterior, front of the house, night. Close on front door as a bolt unlocks, the key turns, a chain is removed. At last the door swings open as Glen staggers out.
I'm gonna punch out your ugly lights, whoever you are.
No answer, but a slight rustle in the bushes. Glen does 180 and walks right back inside. The girls prod him right back out, giddy and giggling with fear.
It's just a stupid cat.
And bring us back its tails and whiskers.
The girls push him further. Glen edges towards the shadows, then screeching again. Glen stops. Tina edges back into the house.
Anyway, I don't have a cat.
Angle into the shadows. Turned from the girls, Glen sobers, listening. In his POV, we see the street, silent houses, motionless trees on empty lawns.
Kitty, kitty.
Not a living or dead soul. Glen turns back to the girls with a shrug. Instantly, a large figure pounces and throws him into the ground with a shout. The girls scream in a panic and run for the house. Reverse, Rod leaps up and shouts like a sportscaster.
And it's number 36. Rod Lane bring Lantz down just 3 yards from the goal with a brilliant tackle, and the fans go wild.
Rod dances into the light, flashing a wild gypsy's grin at Tina. The girls, relieved and frightened at the same time.
What the hell are you doing here?
Came to make up. No big deal. Your mom home?
Of course. What's that?
Rod takes the spindly hand rake he's found and scrapes the house's wall. It makes a terrible screeching sound. He grins and tosses it aside.
Intense, huh?
Sizes up the 3.
So, what's happening? An orgy or something?
Maybe a funeral, you dickhead.
Rod wheels, a knife suddenly in his hand as if ready to take Glen's throat out. Nancy breaks between.
Just a sleepover date, Rod. Just Tina and me. Glen was just leaving.
Rod eyes Glen, laughs, and flips the knife closed and away, putting his arm around Tina's shoulder and laughing as if it's all a great joke.
You see his face?
Lower.
You're mine. Home is she?
To Nancy and Glen.
Me and Tina got stuff to discuss.
He pulls Tina inside without further ceremony.
Rod.
But Rod's already got himself and Tina halfway through the living room, heading into the darker part of the house.
We got her mother's bed. You two got the rest.
Angle back on Glen and Nancy.
We should get her out of here.
Tina darts to the front door, her blouse half out.
Hey, you guys are hanging around, right?
Fake laughing and whine.
Don't leave me alone with this. Please, Nancy.
She disappears. Glen looks at Nancy, too innocent.
So, we'll guard her together through the night.
Moving closer.
In each other's arms, like we always said.
Glen, not now. I mean, we're here for Tina now, not for ourselves.
She kisses him lightly, then pushes him back. Frustrated.
Why is she so bothered by his stupid nightmare anyway?
Because he was scary, that's why.
Who was scary?
Nancy turns and looks at him.
Don't you think it's weird? Her and me dreaming about the same guy?
Glen looks away. Nancy stares closer.
You didn't have a bad dream last night, did you?
Glen gives her a funny look.
Me? I don't dream.
He takes her inside. Over the sounds of locks falling shut, we fade to black. Interior's Tina's living room night. Fade up on an old 50s clock, one of those set into the black plaster body of a stalking panther. It's just past 2 a.m. Pan the cold hearth and darkened living room to reveal Glen on the couch, cocooned in his sheets. He's listening miserably to the sounds of lovemaking coming from the next room. Tina peeks, Rod howls, then silence.
Morality sucks.
Cut to interior Tina's mother's bedroom, night. There is a slightly larger room than Tina's, adult, female, spare in its appointments. The streetlight throws the narrow bed into broken shadow and light. Tina and Rod lie in each other's arms in the middle of the big bed, satiated.
I knew there was something about you that I liked.
Rod yawns and smiles, happy.
You feel better now, right?
Jungle Man, fix Jane.
No more fights.
No more fights.
Sleepily.
Good. No more nightmares for either of us then.
He pulls the covers over his head. He's almost out already, beat.
When did you have a nightmare?
Under the blankets.
Guys can have nightmares too, you know. You ain't got a corner on the fucking meat market or something.
He rolls over, practically snoring, and pulls another cover over his head. The dirty red and yellow cover. Sleepily.
Where'd you get this snotty old thing?
Snores from Rod. Tina yawns, turns off the light, and snuggles up against Rod, pulling the cover gingerly over herself, too. Interior Tina's bedroom night. Camera moves across the living room of the original nightmare to find Nancy alone in Tina's bed, staring at the slanting ceiling above the bed, thinking. We can just hear her heart beating. She sighs and turns on her side. Immediately, the wall over her head turns a faint reddish hue, with a broad yellow smear across its center, all unseen by Nancy. The wall begins to pulse in exact time with her heart's beat. Close on Nancy's face, she closes her eyes. Angle back up on the ceiling just above her head. Something presses against the surface from the inside. The plaster bulges as if suddenly elastic, taking the shape of the thing pressing from the inside, taking the shape of a man's face. The face opens its mouth, the knives rake through the surface. Angle on Nancy, a plaster dust snows down on her. She jerks awake, sitting bolt upright. The face retreats suddenly, and the wall is normal. Angle down on Nancy as she looks up to the ceiling, touching her hair and feeling the plaster dust. Reverse in her POV to the ceiling. There are 3 parallel cuts in the plaster there, about 8 inches long, as if cut by sharp knives. Nothing else. Back on Nancy, she draws the covers around her and shivers, eyes open wide. Exterior Tina's house night. Not a car or person in sight. A stricken breeze dies in the trees. Zoom in on the window of the room where Tina sleeps. By the time we're in close on it, the air is again still as death. A moment later, a pebble bounces off the plane. The nightmare theme appears in the lower registers and holds its breath. Another pebble strikes with a sharp rap. Interior Tina's mother's bedroom night. Close on Tina's face as her eyes open. Reverse in her POV, another pebble clatters off the glass. Tina rises slowly.
Rod?
Snores from the bed. Tina sits up. Past her to the window, the wind moves again. The trees brush the window with their shadows. Then another pebble. Rap. Tina slips to the window. Exterior Tina's backyard. Night. She looks out on the old yard with a patch of banana trees rattling into the Santa Ana winds. It seems deserted, though the welling dark won't let her be sure. Then another pebble. Pat. Hitting with a sharp rack focus. A low angle to a window as Tina jumps back, startled. She hadn't seen that one coming, but she's drawn back to the glass out of curiosity, straining to see what's in the dark, as if the stones are materializing out of thin air. Interior Tina's mother's bedroom night. Whap! This time, it's a heavier stone, and a thin crack bristles across the glass. Low.
Who the fuck you think you are, whoever you are?
Exterior Tina's backyard, night. Wide angle on the rear of the house. A light comes on. Tina appears in the doorway, listening.
Somebody there?
You can see through the backyard to a yawning gate in the back alley. No one there, but a word is spoken, as if by the wind. Freddie.
This is God.
Oh, I don't know where that one came from, but Tina struggles, unable to swallow. There's a ragged, obscene giggle, deep in the throat, phlegmy.
Who the hell is that?
Tina charges across the yard and flows through the gate, the music chasing after. Exterior, a service alley, night. She breaks the middle of the alley and whirls around, listening, shivering in the same thin slashed nightgown. A sharp crank of metal and 50 feet down the alley, the lid of an ash can rolls from the dark like a huge tin coin and spirals noisily down. A reverse Low reverse across the lid to Tina. Despite herself, she comes over and touches it. She comes up with long worms on her fingers. Next moment, the exact same shambling man from her nightmare staggers into view 50 feet from behind her. Tina falls back into the shadows, shaking the worms off of her fingers in repulsion. The man turns and starts directly for her, something shining on his right hand as he spreads his arms wide. He starts scraping the steel fingernails along the cinder block wall. Orange sparks spurt out, his arms elongate until they reach out from one side of the alley to the other, and Tina is cut off from her home. She close on her as the scraping blades get louder and closer. She begins to shake uncontrollably.
Oh shit, please, God.
Softly approaching.
This is God.
He holds up his steel-tipped hand like a surgical steel spider. Tina runs for her life. Wider angle in the alley, a terrifying and all-out foot race between the girl and her pursuer. The man is fast. The distance between them closes with each heartbeat. Tina overturns ash cans, claws her way through a rotten back fence, hammers against the window. Ashen faces appear, recoil, then pull the curtains closed and disappear in fright. Exterior of Tina Street, night. Tina runs out into the front lawns, screaming for help. No help comes. In fact, the only response is for all the porch lights on the block to be turned off. The man roars from behind a tree too narrow for him to have hidden from. Nearly upon the girl, Tina runs in panic, at last making it to her own home, only to be trapped against its locked door. She hammers against the thick wood.
Nancy, open the door, Nancy!
The man slows. He has Tina now, and he knows it.
She's still awake. Nancy can't hear you.
Tina turns and looks full at the approaching man, smudged by deep shadow. He's big and hideous. He wears the same dirty yellow sweater from the first nightmare, from the wall hanging, and the blanket too. And he has the same sagging hat and leering grin over his misshapen face. And on his fingers are the steel talons. Close on him as he takes the blade on the end of his right index finger and lops off one of the fingers on his left hand. Then another. We see the pieces of fingers fall past Tina's face in slow motion. Angle on the ground as the fingers squirming on the ground, one flopping onto Tina's naked foot. Tina leaps back, sickened, and begins stamping on them as if they were huge bugs. The man snaps his arm, and then his fingers fly back into place on his hand. He leers at Tina, then suddenly lunges at her, sweeping with his cutting hand. Tina's no weak sister, blocks his arm, deflecting the spines, and grabs a man's ugly face with her other hand. But the face only slides off the bone. The man presses in, and Tina contorts in horror as the knives slash across her shoulder, cutting her deeply. Tina staggers backwards, groaning, her foot now inexplicably caught in the bedclothes. She falls over her bed's comforter, twists away from the man, and like a child pulls the cover over her. The skull-faced man crushes down, and there's a fierce grappling, punctuated by his grunts, and the girl's deafening screams. They both become totally wrapped in the comforter until they're both beneath it, fighting for their life. Interior Tina's bedroom, night. Rod lurches up into close-up as the lightness of the bedroom, half wakened by the tremendous struggle somehow, inside the dark bed. Rod grabs groggily, lifts the blanket. In his POV, we glimpse the dark underside of the blanket, see two shadowy figures flailing and clawing underneath the bedspread. Tina and the man, or a shape that could be a man, raging against each other. Rod drops the blanket and leaps from the bed, scared, full awake, and terrified. Then the horrible Tina's gasps change to cries of a terribly wounded victim. Rod instantly jerks back as the bedspread. In his POV, we see Tina struggling and flailing along the sheets, the man nowhere in sight.
Tina?
Suddenly, Tina, eyes turned inward into her tormentor, give an awful jolt. Her arms and legs are spraddled as if by overwhelming force and pinned against the bed. Next instant, her nightgown flies apart, and 4 long gashes chase across her torso. From no visible instruments, a huge irrigation of blood floods the bed. Terrified, Rod dives for the light, but at the same moment, something invisible grabs Tina, yielding her body in the air, bringing it around in a swift blow that knocks Rod crashing into the light, smashing it to bits. Closer on him as he struggles around. In the blue flashes of electricity, Rod sees Tina sliding up the bedroom wall in a dark smear, dragged feet first. Angle on Rod, paralyzed by terror. angle on Tina's dying eyes, moving up with her, up the wall and bumping around the corner into the ceiling. She's just looking at who's dragging her, eyes glazing. Reverse in her POV to the shadowy, horrendously ugly man, dragging her with fierce glee across the ceiling, literally swabbing the ceiling with her bloody body. Seen in forced perspective, the shot carries her across the great distance without seeming to get anywhere, as if the ceiling was an endless plain. Angle down on Rod, his hands and knees, the lamp next to him blurting blue sparks and strobing the nightmare room. Rod screaming up at Tina's invisible tormentor.
What's going on here, Tina?
Angle on Tina upside down, clawing at the hanging lamp above her mother's dressing room table. Desperate for some anchor, but she's dragged away from it. The lamp swings back, its wires gushing more sparks. Closer along the ceiling as Tina rakes a long furrow in the ceiling with her fingernails, but her eyes are glazing, and then they fall closed. Wide up on the ceiling as her body suddenly flops loose, hanging for an awful moment by the feet over her bed. Reverse on Rod, staring like a terrified child.
Tina.
Reverse on his POV as the body falls like a smack of rocks onto the devastated bed in slow motion, striking with a huge splash of blood. A sick, awful giggle floats around the room, then echoes off into infinity. Rod staggers up, staring around as if to see this phantom.
You motherfucker. I'll kill you for that.
Interior Tina's bedroom night. Nancy is sitting straight up in bed, terrified. The cries of Rod are ringing through the whole house. She forces herself to move, bolting from the bed, desperate, despite her terror and sense of dread. Interior hallway night. Nancy flies into the dark hall, crashing directly into someone who lurches out of the dark before her. She screams and jumps back.
What the hell's going on?
You're muted, Leila.
Sorry. Oh, geez, Glen. Rod's gone ape.
Sobbing.
I'll kill you.
Nancy grabs the door. It's locked. She pounds on it. Things fall into sudden awful silence on the other side. Glen's voice cracks with fear.
Rod?
Silence.
Rod, you better not hurt Tina.
Rod erupts into a terrible hoarse laughter and sobbing. Then they hear breaking glass. Glen barrels into the door like a football player he is. The frame splinters and they're in. Interior Tina's mother's bedroom, night. Just inside the door, Nancy slips and goes down hard. Glen finds her in the dark more by touch than sight.
You okay?
Yeah. Something's slippering all over here.
Feeling.
Tina?
No answer. The room is quiet as a tomb, except for the stead dripping from all over. Then Glen finds a light switch. On the click, the devastation is revealed. There's blood everywhere, up the walls, over the clawed ceiling, soaking the killing floor of the bed, and pooling in the dark red puddle where Nancy has slipped and fallen.
Oh, shit.
Nancy wobbles up and sees Tina in the center of the ravaged bed, unmistakably and utterly dead. Nancy presses against the wall, then contorts and chokes, numb.
I'm gonna call the cops.
He bursts from the room, tight on Nancy as she turns from the body in repulsion, sticking her head through the shattered window Rod Lane used for his escape, sucking in the cold night air and moaning. Fade to black. Exterior and interior of the police station, night. Fade up on the red lights and siren as an unmarked police car speeds to the curb. Lieutenant Don Thompson, a decent-looking man in his mid-40s, exits and punches a cigarette from his pack. His shaken aide, a uniformed patrolman named Parker, greets him. Camera follows them from the car straight into the station and eventually to Thompson's office.
Lieutenant Thompson, sorry to wake you, but
I'd have canned your ass if you hadn't. What do you got?
Parker stumbles to an open door for Thompson as the man bowls into the station at a furious pace.
her name is Tina Gray. It was her home. Father abandoned 10 years ago. Mother's in Vegas with her boyfriend. We're trying to reach them now.
Lieutenant Thompson grimaces as if he knows the story.
What's the coroner got to say?
Something like a razor was the weapon, but nothing found at the scene.
Thompson is already To the desk, Officer Sergeant Garcia. The big man shoves a sheaf of papers. Wary. John, you're muted.
No. Where is she?
Sorry, no, it's John and John. John,
Yeah,
John
right.
Rico is Sergeant Garcia.
Lieutenant, yeah, Lieutenant, you know who?
Where is she?
Put her in your office.
Parker scurries after her.
Looks like her boyfriend did it. Rod Lane, musician type. Arrest for brawling, dope.
Terrific. What the hell was she doing there?
She lived there.
I don't mean her.
Interior interrogation room, night. Thompson enters his office and confronts Nancy and her mother, Marge Simpson.
I mean you.
Accusingly to Marge.
What the hell was she doing there?
Marge Simpson in her middle 30s, a good-looking woman despite the hour and circumstances.
Well, hello to you too, Donald.
Thompson stops and then steam suddenly out of him. The girl is a wreck and winces to see it.
Marge?
Thompson glances at Parker and the other uniformed cops who are in the room. As a man, they head for the door. There's no question of who the boss is here. Thompson turns to Nancy. She fumbles a smile.
How you doing, pal?
Okay. Hi, Dad.
Nancy's dress is dark and dried with blood, her skin clammy and the color of paste. Marge shoots her ex-husband a worried glance. Thompson pulls a chair close to Nancy.
I don't want to get into this now. God knows you need the time.
Hotter.
But I sure would like to know what the hell you were doing shacked up with 3 other kids in the middle of the night, especially a delinquent lunatic like Lane.
Nancy weeps.
Rod's not a lunatic.
You got a sane explanation for what he did?
The girl is shredding a Kleenex, staring off.
Apparently, he was crazy jealous. Nancy said they had a fight, Rod and Tina.
Quietly.
It wasn't that serious.
Maybe you don't think murder's serious, but...
Nancy spits bolt upright in her chair, eyes flashing.
She was my best friend. Don't you dare say that I don't take her death seriously.
Lower near tears.
I just meant their fights weren't that serious.
The girl holds the woman's eyes a moment, then looks away to herself.
She dreamed this would happen.
What?
She had a nightmare about somebody trying to kill her. Last night. That's why we were there. She was afraid to sleep alone.
A tear splashes off the arm of her chair.
She's been through enough for one night. You have her statement.
The mother and daughter rise. Thompson raps on the door and Parker opens it to Marge.
I suggest you keep a little better track on her. She's still a kid, you know.
Marge wheels on him.
You think I knew there were boys there? You try raising a teenager alone.
Then she and the girl are gone. Thompson glares at Parker. Low to Parker.
See they get home okay.
Parker shoves his hands in his pocket. On his face, we fade to black. Interior Nancy's kitchen, morning. Burn on, the second day. Fade up on Marge Simpson, opening a new bottle of gin, pouring herself a careful shot, drinking it, then chasing it with coffee. Nearby, a TV drones the morning news. We can't yet see the screen.
In the headlines this morning, a local teenage girl was brutally murdered during an all-night party.
Marge turns, startled, seeing Nancy coming downstairs. The girl looks a little better than she did in the police station, but her eyes are still red-rimmed and a vacant stress masks her face. She looks to the TV, stops.
Police say the victim, 15-year-old Christina Gray, had quarreled earlier with her boyfriend Rod Lane, a punk rocker with a history of delinquency. Lane is now the subject of a citywide manhunt. According to...
The TV picture has begun featuring a handheld newsreel shot of a dark rubber body bag being carried into a coroner's van. Just before the thing is lifted inside, Tina's bloodied white arm slips from its zippered side and lolls onto the dark night air. A man rudely shoves it back inside and pulls the zipper up the rest of the way. Whiter, as Nancy pales visibly, Marge darts to the TV and slaps it off, then turning to Nancy, looks at the girl a moment and then goes to hug her. Kindly.
Where you think you're going?
School?
I could hear you tossing and turning all night, kiddo. You've no business going to school.
Nancy pulls away, determined.
I gotta go to school, Mom. Please. Otherwise, I'll just sit up there and go crazy or something.
Marge studies her face a moment.
Did you sleep?
I'll sleep in study hall, promise. I'd rather keep busy, you know?
She absently drains the woman's cup of coffee, then pecks her on the cheek.
Right home after.
Right home after. See you.
Marge watches the girl disappear outside, then lights a cigarette from the one already burning in her fingers. Exterior street, day. Music slips back in, subtle but tense, as we track with Nancy as she walks alone down a sidewalk edged with thick flowering oleander. She cocks her head, puzzled, as if sensing something. Music mounts. Nancy looks across the street. Reversed in her POV, a man is over there in dark clothes, reading a newspaper, but really watching her. Nancy shrugs and continues on, then stops and looks back again. In her POV, we see the man is gone. The next moment, with a music sting, a bloodied hand jumps out from the opposite direction, clamps over Nancy's mouth, and drags her into the bushes. Exterior bushes, day. Nancy struggles, twisting against the powerful assailant. Wider angle reveals Rod Lane, a barefoot, clad only in jeans and leather jacket, still caked with dark blood. The rest of his skin is pale as a ghost's.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
He releases her warily. Nancy makes no move to run or scream, even though several students pass on the nearby sidewalk. This reassures Rod just a little.
Your old man thinks I did it, don't he?
He doesn't know you.
Eyeing the blood.
Couldn't you change?
The cops were all over my house.
Shivers.
They'll kill me for sure.
Nobody's gonna kill you.
He runs his hands down his face, trying to believe that. The two study each other.
I never touched her.
You were screaming like crazy.
Nancy says this without accusation, just a cool observation.
Someone else was there.
The door was locked from your side.
Rod grabs her hard. His muscular body tenses.
Don't look at me like I'm some kind of fucking fruitcake or something. I'm warning you.
Morning, Mr. Lane.
The boy jerks around. Nancy's father, his .38 leveled right at Rod's belly, eases out of the bushes.
Now just step away from her, son, like your ass depended on it. I'm warning you.
Rod backs away, looking once at Nancy with a look of terrible sadness. Then he dives out of the bushes and runs like hell. Thompson snaps his revolver to fire, but instinctively Nancy jumps between.
No!
Thompson jerks his gun into the air, furious.
Jesus, are you crazy?
He plunges past the girl. Exterior street, day. Rod races like a frightened animal across the lawns, but is soon cut off by the plainclothesmen Nancy saw watching her from before. Then two uniformed policemen who close from another angle. The chase is short and pitifully off balance, and Rod is soon wrestled to the ground. Next moment, one of the cops is holding Rod's knife into the air for Thompson to see. Thompson looks at Nancy as if to say, I told you. Background, Rod's shouts can be heard as he's shoved into a squad car.
I didn't do it!
Fading.
I didn't kill her, Nancy!
The car's door slams and Rod is gone. Nancy turns to her father, livid.
You used me, Daddy.
Exasperated.
What the hell were you doing going to school today anyway? Your mother told me you didn't even sleep last night.
Nancy spins angrily and walks away.
Nancy! Hey!
But she just keeps going. Fade to black. Interior classroom, day. Fade up on an English teacher and class. Nancy among the kids trying to concentrate.
According to Shakespeare, there was something operating in nature, perhaps inside human nature itself, that was rotten. A canker, as he put it.
The teacher's eyes glance across the room, angle on Nancy, yawning, but listening.
Of course, Hamlet's response to this and to his mother's lies was to continually probe and dig, just like the gravediggers, always trying to get beneath the surface. The same was true in a different way in Julius Caesar. John, go ahead.
She listens to she nods to a surfer who's been waiting uncomfortably in front of the class. He squints at his book and begins. The recitation of a struggle between baked and salted brain in the poetry of the bard. King, this is you. You're muted.
In the most high and palmy state of Rome.
California's the most high and palmy state, man.
English teacher.
There's another line. Anyway, can it?
Oh, sorry, that was me. She glares back at them in silence. The surfer starts over as we cut to Nancy. She nodded off, barely able to keep her eyes open in the warm, close boredom of the classroom.
In the most high and palmy state of Rome, a little ere the mightiest Julius fell.
Nancy's head pitches forward. She jerks it back up, barely awake.
The grave stood tenantless, and the dead did squeak and gibber in a Rome street.
Nancy's head has sunk again, eyelids drawn as if by enormous weight. By the time her cheeks against the desk, the surfer's voice is echoed and distant, but another voice, Tina's, is very near, very much present, a sad, thin plaint. Nancy gives a start. Her eyes lock onto something. Reverse, tilted sideways. In her head's POV, we look straight out through the open doorway of the classroom into the hall. There, standing in a black pool of fluid, is a full-sized rubber body bag, dark red and yellow, weaving slightly, the merest suggestion of movement within it. Back on Nancy, sitting upright, wiping the sleep from her eyes, shaking her head like a punchy prose fighter. She looks back out the door. Reverse in normal POV, the hallway is empty, but there's a dark smear on its floor tiles. Nancy looks nervously toward the rest of the class. No one else has noticed a thing outside the door. All are numbly spellbound by the surfer, who now recites like a deep-voiced robot, his face wreathed by white hair.
Oh God, I could be bound in a nutshell and count myself a king of infinity space, where it's not that I have bad dreams.
Angle back on Nancy. She slips from her seat, eye warily on the teacher in class, but no one turns as she disappears through the doorway. Interior school hallway day. Nancy turns and looks in both directions. No sign of anybody. Nancy wheels and sees the bag, prone on the tiles at the far end of the hall. At the end of a long snail's trail of slime, a pale hand thrust out of it. A moment later, as if pulled by an invisible gravity, the bag slides out of sight and into an intersecting corridor.
Tina?
Nancy starts running for it. Angle at the corner as Nancy races blindly around and smashes straight into a body lunging at her from the opposite direction. Both go down. Angle at the floor, a dazed freshman hall guard cranks herself up on one elbow. She wears a plastic plaque on her red and yellow sweater that reads Hall Guard. Her nose is bleeding from the impact.
You're not supposed to run. Where's your pass? You got a pass?
Nancy leaps up.
Screw your stupid pass.
She turns and sees the body bag halfway down the darker, narrower hall, upright again. But just as she sees it, it tips and pitches headlong through the doorway like some god-awful rotten tree finally timbering down. She can hear the sickening crunching of it falling down a long flight of stairs. Nancy runs for it again. The hall guard staggers up the foreground, bleeding profusely from her eyes and ears.
Hey, no running in the halls.
The hall guard raises her hand and we see that it's tipped with long metal spikes. Reverse angle at the doors. Nancy runs up. Nancy turns to check on the hall guard. She's vanished. Nancy turns and looks down through the open door. The music sweeps through a strange, brooding movement of strings mounting towards the nightmare's theme. Interior, a stairwell. Nancy edges into the stairwell and looks down. Looks like there's a fire somewhere down there from the way the orange light dances, but there's only a low white noise.
Tina?
No answer. Nancy starts down the stairs. Interior boiler room day. Nancy comes off the stairs into a dark boiler room. The smear trail is there. It runs behind a cracking red-hot boiler in the size of diesel locomotive. Everything about the place feels dreadfully wrong, and the music is deep into the nightmare theme when it pauses, tight only on Nancy. Slow terror moves into her face. There's a low, sinister giggle. Reverse in her POV, we see a tangle of pipes, shadows, and the tainted fire of a huge boiler. From behind this, deeply shadowed but still identifiable, steps Tina's killer. The same filthy red and yellow sweater and slouch hat, the same melted face twisting into a smile, and the same garbled laugh as he slides the long blades from beneath his shirt and fans them on its ends of his bony fingers.
Who are you?
Gonna get you.
The leering man brings the bloodied scalpel fingernails across his own chest, splitting a nipple. Yellow fluid pours out, maggots and worms. Nancy forgets the question, jerks around and flees in blind panic into the first opening she sees, a dark pipe tunnel. Interior pipe tunnel, angle in the narrow passageway in the background, the killer shambles towards her. Foreground, Nancy breaks into a run. The killer sprints. Nancy tears ahead in the darkness. She flees deeper and deeper into the labyrinth of steaming, sizzling pipes, squeezing through her smaller and smaller openings. The killer is just yards behind her, and soon she's trapped, just as Tina was before her. She presses her back to the wet bricks. There's no hope of fighting him off, for Nancy is not as strong as Tina, but she is smart as hell and thinking even in this nightmare. So by the time the creep has raised his knives to strike, Nancy has realized something. She wheels and shoves her arm against one of the scalding steam pipes. In the same split second we hear her flesh scald, we cut to interior cleaning English class day. Nancy lurches up, screaming, arms raised to ward off the invisible blow. Books clattering off the floor. Other girls nearby scream in surprise and stumbles over them. She stops, confused and groggy from the nightmare. Wider angle, everybody is staring at Nancy as if she's gone mad. The English teacher rushes over, herself frightened by the terror in the girl's eyes.
Okay, Thompson. Everything's all right now. Nancy?
Nancy jerks around with panicked eyes, expecting the killer to leap from any direction, but there's only a sea of staring eyes. Nancy begins methodically picking up her books.
I'll call your mother.
No, really, I'm fine. I'll go straight home. I'm okay.
She marches for the door.
You'll need a hall pass.
But the girl's gone. Exterior, the school, day. Nancy walks out of the building shaking. She pauses at one of the big pine trees out front, stops and rests her head against its bark, teeth set. Nancy starts to shake, and in the second, she's sobbing like a broken-hearted, frightened child. But she shakes herself silent, wipes the tears away with a slash of sleeve, and then rubs her arm absently, lost in thought, then reacts in surprise and pain. She lifts her arm and stares at the spot she touched. Insert on her arm and the burn there, about the size and shape of a $50. Wider on Nancy, utterly chillingly and confused. Tina, against the tree, inches from Nancy, turns to her and says,
Couldn't get back to sleep at all? What you dream?
Exterior, a busy street, day. Nancy is walking quickly, head erect, jaw set. Then she enters her father's police station. Interior, Van Nuys police station, day. Nancy crosses directly to the Garcia.
My dad here?
Garcia looks up from his paperwork. John Rico, you're muted. Still muted. Garcia looks up from his paperwork. Lieutenant Thompson emerges from another room, uneasy to see Nancy.
Did take a day off after all?
Dad, I want to see Rod Lane.
Thompson doesn't miss a beat.
Only family allowed, Nancy. You know the drill.
Just want to talk to him a second.
He's dangerous.
You don't know he did it.
No, I know, thanks to your own testimony, that he was locked in a room with a girl who went in alive and came out in a rubber bag.
Nancy flinches. Her father shows the first signs of color in his neck.
I just want to talk to him.
Beat lower.
Please, Dad.
Thompson shifts almost imperceptibly towards Garcia, then turns back to Nancy.
Make it fast.
Dissolve to interior cell area, day. A guard exits, pushing a cart of food trays. Nancy waits warily until he's gone, then looks back to Rod Lane. Rod looks more like a captured coyote than a human, haggard, ribbed, expecting poisoned bait. His hair is wet. His clothes are borrowed jeans and a work shirt. Low.
And then what happened?
I told you.
Reluctantly.
It was dark, but I'm sure there was someone else in there, under the covers with her.
Nancy reacts.
How could somebody get under the covers with you guys without you knowing it?
How the fuck do I know?
Beat.
I don't expect you to believe me.
Nancy studies his encrypted eyes. Surprisingly, she looks like she just might believe him. She leans closer with a new thought.
What'd he look like? You get a look at him?
Looks away.
No.
Well, then how can you say somebody else was there?
Because somebody cut her while I watched.
Now the place is so quiet you can hear heartbeats.
Somebody cut her while you watched and you don't know what he looked like?
Rod smiles an insane smile, stuck with reality no one will buy.
You couldn't see the fucker. You could just see the cuts happening all at once.
Nancy gives a twitch.
What do you mean all at once?
Low.
I mean, it was as if there were 4 razors cutting her at the same time. But invisible razors, she just opened up.
By now he's picking at a clot of dark blood on his jacket, as if it was a scab from his own body. Then he catches Nancy watching and turns away to the back of the cell. He smashes his fist into the wall, bone-crushing blows that scare the wits out of Nancy.
Rod!
He stops and his fist is dripping with blood as he says in a small, sad voice.
I probably could have saved her if I'd moved sooner. But I thought it was just another nightmare like the one I had the night before.
Beat.
There was this guy who had knives for fingers.
Close on Nancy, unable to swallow the gorge rising her throat. Rod turns to her, and to his surprise, she's ashen.
Do you think I did it?
No.
Fade to black. Exterior Elm Street, Nancy's home, night. Fade up on an establishing shot as a spooky wind sets a dog barking down the block. A car goes by, then this pleasant residential street falls into silence. Camera has moved in on Nancy's well-tended 2-story home. Interior Nancy's kitchen, night. The house is in shadow. Alone, Marge scrapes the last of the evening dishes and slips them into the dishwasher. Neither she nor her daughter has touched the food, but Marge is well into a bottle of gin. Her appetite for that is growing, right along with her dread. She turns and looks up the stairs, calling.
Nancy, don't fall asleep in there.
I won't.
Get into bed.
Interior upstairs bathroom, night.
I will.
Nancy's in the tub, so drowsy she can hardly rinse without falling asleep. The water in the tub is opaque with suds, luxurious. Closer angle at water level on Nancy. Her eyes droop. She slides closer to the surface of the water, letting it soothe her nerves. Her eyes stare straight up, glazed. Her breathing deepens. Reverse, across to her legs, crooked, one knee on each side of the tub. There's a ripple in the water between. Then something tiny and shiny breaks the surface between them. It pops up with slithering music cue and catches a sliver of light. Then it begins to rise. Higher and higher it rises, soon accompanied by another, then 2 more shining, gleaming blades, and then the full glove and dark, hairy hand and the wrist and an arm, straight up like an evil sapling between the girl's knees, the knives blossoming into a bright flower of razor-sharp steel in the air, moving over the girl's belly. The hand rears back, the claws moves to strike.
Nancy?
Marge raps on the door. The instant she does, Nancy jerks up, opening her eyes groggily. The dark, wet arm and hand knives are gone.
What?
Through the door.
You're not falling asleep, are you? You could drown, you know.
Mother, for Pete's sake.
It happens all the time.
Brighter.
I've got some warm milk all ready for you. Why don't you jump into bed?
Fading.
I'm going to turn on your electric blanket too. Come on now.
Then she's gone into another room. Low.
Warm milk? Gross.
She slides down to water level again and sings softly, thoughtfully to herself.
1, 2, Freddie's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, gonna stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep again.
The next instant, she's jerked with incredible violence straight down beneath the surface of the tub, as if the bottom had suddenly dropped out and she was in a bottomless well. Exterior underwater shot, night. Looking up past her ankles, we see Nancy pulled sharply down into really deep water, the dim light of the surface and bathroom beyond receding with each yank. And yet she somehow flails and gasps and struggles back towards the surface, managing by pure panic to break the surface with her hands. Interior hallway outside the bathroom. Marge rushes to the door and listens, alarmed at the wild splashing, audible through the locked door.
Nancy! Nancy!
Exterior underwater shot, night. Marge's voice reaches the girl, who thrusts up through the main force and breaks the surface of the water with her head and shoulders. Interior bathtub. Gasping and choking, Nancy breaks the surface of her bathwater like a drowning sailor getting one last chance. Her mother's voice booms over her, echoed and frantic, and the loud banging on the door finally opens her eyes. She turns and calls, gasping, to her mother.
Mommy!
Reverse on the door as Marge, using the old coat hanger through the door handle truck, makes it into the room. She rushes across the tub. Nancy is staggering up in the bathwater again, solid porcelain beneath her feet.
I told you, hundreds of people a year drown like that.
The mother throws a towel around the gasping girl, helps her from the tub, and begins drying her like a child. Nancy looks like she's paralyzed with some sort of weird dread.
You okay?
Great.
Not believing it for a minute.
To bed with you, come on.
Marge rushes out to get the room ready. Nancy turns and looks at herself in the cabinet mirror. She opens the medicine chest and begins a quick, furtive search. Closer as she takes out the box of No-Dos and slips it into her robe. Okay, we're at an hour. Who needs to take 5 for pee or water? Let's go. 5 minutes. Timer's set.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Jean.
My
I
kids'
got your
school.
message.
Yes, I gotta go very quick.
I think you're done though. So other than the discussion, I'd watch the playback for the discussion and finish it on the playback so that you can learn, okay?
Oh, okay.
All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Woo! All right, how are we doing, guys? Still got another minute or two. 1 minute. We're gonna need Grant here, not too long, so I don't want to start without him. We have Grant back. We got Nancy, we got Marge. Everybody's here.
My battery's running low, so if I lose you guys, I'll log back in on my phone.
Okay, do you have my cell, Louisa?
I think so.
Text me because I'm in the page pretty heavily as narrator, so I may not see you re-enter. Okay.
Okay.
So
I'm
try to
keeping up.
text me if I'm not letting you in. It's because I'm busy.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like I'm afraid I won't see you.
Right.
All right, we're still we need Rod back, but not for a little while, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so Nancy just had an almost drowning nightmare. We just saved her again. We're on scene 70 out of 211. So just kind of give y'all a sense of timing here. Scene 71, interior hallway night. Nancy emerges from the bathroom yawning. Marge follows as the girl plods obediently to her room.
No television, forget the homework, no phone calls.
Leila, you're muted.
No, mother. Yes, mother. No, mother.
Interior Nancy's room night.
And no school tomorrow either. You take a little vacation, relax and rest for a change.
Yes, mother. Good night.
Marge offers a smile and a little yellow pill.
Take this, it'll help you sleep.
Right.
Nancy pops it into her mouth and swallows obediently. Marge leans to her with a kiss.
Sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite.
Marge goes out, relieved. Nancy closes the door, leans against it, and spits the pill into her hand. She tosses it straight out her window and takes a no-dose. Fade to black. Fade up on the insert of television screen. A monster movie in black and white. No sound from the set. Pull back to reveal Nancy propped up in bed, furtively watching. Is she thinking? Or is she thinking? A bedside clock reads 12:45 p.m. The girl yawns. She shakes herself violently and sits up straighter, forcing herself to concentrate on the movie. On the television screen, a diver struggles to keep facing a large circling shark. On Nancy, her eyes droop shut, then jerks awake, rattling her head as if it were a radio drifting off station. She tumbles out of bed, throws open the window, and takes a deep breath of cool night air. Exterior, Nancy's house and street night. High angle at a second-story level, Nancy looks directly across the street to a lighted open window. Its curtains sucked out and waving into the night breeze give the only motion of the deserted street. Then sun pitches out of the dark at her. Nancy gives a yelp and then clamps her hand over her mouth as she recognizes Glen, balanced precariously on the rose trellis outside of her window.
Sorry, I saw your light on. Thought I'd see how you were.
She gets herself together, barely.
Sometimes I wish you didn't live right across the street.
Shut up and let me in. You ever stand on a rose trellis in your bare feet?
Interior Nancy's room night. Nancy looks over her shoulder to make sure her mother hasn't heard. Glen is already through the window and is planted on her bed. Nancy points to a chair.
If you don't mind.
Glen crosses to the chair and plops down.
So, I heard you freaked out in English class today.
There's no maliciousness in his voice, and familiar frankness is actually comforting to Nancy.
Yes, I did.
Haven't slept, have you?
Not really.
Nancy tries to smile, but can't fake it very well. Glen looks over her.
You look dead and rained on, if you want the ugly truth. And what'd you do to your arm?
She shrugs, trying to keep it casual.
Burned myself in English class.
She hazards to look in the mirror. Her jaw drops.
My God. I look 20 years old.
Turning back to him.
You have any weird dreams last night?
Slept like a rock.
Pleased.
Well, At least I have an objective to bounce this off.
Off.
You believe it's possible to dream about what's going to happen?
No.
You believe in the boogeyman?
1, 2, Freddie's coming for you? No. Rod killed Tina. He's a fruitcake and you know it.
You believe in anything?
I believe in you. And me. And rock and roll. And I'm not too sure about you lately.
Nancy thinks.
Listen, I got a crazy favor to ask you.
Uh-oh.
It's nothing too hard or anything.
Beat.
I'm just going to look for someone, and I want you to be sort of a guard, okay?
Glen makes a Twilight Zone sound.
Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Beat.
I think.
She comes very close to him.
You won't screw up, right? I mean, a whole lot might depend on it.
The way she's looking at him gives him the creeps.
Okay, I won't screw it up.
Nancy takes a deep breath, then without another word, turns off the TV and the light.
Jesus, it's dark in here.
Shh. Now listen, here's what we're gonna do.
Exterior Elm Street night. Fade up on Nancy, still in her pajamas, walking through the shadowy streets near her home, listening for the slightest sound. We move with her, but nothing, not even the dog barking earlier, is there now. Nancy peers into the darkness of the lawns and trees behind her. Stage whisper.
You still there?
Across the street and a distance away, Glen steps from behind a tree.
Yeah? So?
Just checking. Keep out of sight.
Glen throws up his hands in exasperation and walks out of sight. Nancy turns and looks between the houses, deep into the dark alleyway. Then she forces herself to walk into it. Exterior, alley, night. Moving with her, she makes herself go deeper and deeper into the shadows. Each time she pauses and waits, the music grows more threatening and expectant. The feeling of immense tension. We're sure the killer will come screaming out her way at any second, but he doesn't. In fact, absolutely nothing happens, and Nancy emerges from the far end of the alley unscathed. The only thing strange is that she now finds herself looking across the mall to the exterior of the police station night. The police station. It takes her a little by surprise. It just seems to have appeared. Music creeps into the nightmare theme as Nancy whispers hoarsely back into the dark alley.
Still there?
Exterior alley night. We only hear the distant voice, slightly echoed, yawning.
Still here.
On your toes, right?
Nancy stares into the dark, trying to see him, but she can't. She turns back and makes up her mind to move on without him in sight. Exterior police station night. Music mounts as we move with Nancy across the lawns to the police station, creeping to the first lighted window she sees. It's a low barred basement window, and Nancy reacts as soon as she looks through it. Interior Rod's cell night. In Nancy's POV, down on Rod Lane's cell, the boy is on his rough cot, twitching in disturbed sleep. A long shadow is sliding across the hall. Or wall. A big shape appears in the shadowed corner outside the boy's cell as it walks closer to Nancy and barely sees it's the shambling, grimy, scarred man with the filthy red and yellow sweater and strange slouch hat pulled across his brow. The killer from all of their nightmares. And this giant shadow of a man passes through the bars of the cell, much like it's evil Jello. Halfway through, he pauses, turning to check over his shoulder. We see the bars clearly penetrating his body, going in his head, passing out his ankles. Then he turns back to Rod and moves forward. And with another heartbeat, he is beside the boy. Exterior police station night. Nancy draws back sharply, swallowing in terror. She looks behind her for help.
Glen?
No answer. Louder.
Glen!
The street is absolutely deserted. There is no motion and no sound save one, the distant but unmistakable sound of Glen snoring.
Glen!
A beat of silence after the shouts echoes die, then the steady, boyish snores again. Nancy swears under her breath and jerks back around, forcing herself to look again into Rod's cell. Interior Rod's cell. In her POV, the killer picks up Rod's bedsheet and tests it between his powerful hands. Without thinking, Nancy bangs against the glass.
Rod, look out!
The killer wheels around, locking eyes with Nancy. The girl's white. The man's face is in the light, and it's horrible, seething with hatred and twisted and insane intelligence. The hold of these eyes is only broken when Rod rolls up onto one elbow with a deep, troubled groan. The instant Rod does this, the killer fades into the shadows of the cell. But even then, his eyes hold on Nancy's until the last second he is visible. Rod looks around the cell groggily, runs his fingers through his matted hair, then collapses back onto his pillow. No matter how hard Nancy screams, Rod never once looks at the window. He just pulls the twisted covers about his shoulders and succumbs once more to sleep. And now the bed sheet is no longer on the bed. The killer, materializing out of the shadow again, is holding it between his hands like a garrote. Sorry, I don't know that word. He looks up and leers at Nancy, then moves for Rod. Exterior police station night. Angle back on Nancy. He pounds the window and then turns his frustration and yells into the night.
Glen!
She turns back into the cell in desperation. Interior of Rod's cell. In Nancy's POV, we look into the cell. It's quite deserted save for Rod, sleeping peacefully. Exterior police station night. Nancy pulls back from the window, stunned.
I swear.
Suddenly, Nancy feels utterly exposed. She shivers, chilled and vulnerable to the bone with her thin night clothes. She can't move, as if some great nerve between her instincts and body has been severed. She hears the sound behind her, a sort of filling, vibrating screech. Music sneaks in and the unmistakable nightmare theme creeping over her. She forces herself by sheer will to look. Ahead of her, perhaps 25 feet covered with a thick plastic body bag through which we can barely see her face, is Tina. Standing there in the middle of the street, a dark ooze of black eels roil out of its bottom and its top. The zipper chatters down and the greenish-white face of Tina lolls out. She gestures, supplicating, her watery eyes desperate to convey some desperate message. The music falls to a hush. Nancy backs away, eyes streaming tears.
Glen, where are you? Wake up! Glen!
I'm here.
Nancy twists around in horror. At the same instant, the killer grabs for her face with his knifed fingers. The girl instinctively pinches back and then scrambles up, runs like hell.
Glen! Glen!
Exterior Elm Street night, moving with Nancy at a full gallop, running blind. She crashes through Sawhorse into a new sidewalk, sinking into a wet cement over her ankles. The stuff sticks to her legs in long, gluey globs, and she can barely pull her feet loose. The killer looms nearby, mocking her, his scalpel claws gleaming in the streetlight. He just misses the girl as she wrenches free and flees again, now so winded she can only stagger. Moving with them time after time, Nancy just barely manages to elude the shadowy form, leaping from his reach by inches and pouring on more steam. It's too close to even bother screaming now. And besides, what would take a breath she doesn't have? The only sound is of running footsteps, rasping breath, and knived fingers whistling through the air. Exterior of Nancy's home, night. Nancy tears across the front lawn and into the open front door of her home, slamming with all of her might. There's a tremendous, satisfying concussion of wood against the doorframe and locks the fall shut. Interior of Nancy's living room, night.
Glen!
But her voice is garbled as if she's underwater, and there's no answer. The only clue to Glen being there at all is his distant snoring, innocent, persistent, deep. Nancy stops, breathes in shreds, face smeared with dirt and tears. Something is clawing the window. In the dark of the kitchen, Nancy looks and catches the man prying the glass with his big knife fingers, the sharp blades sizzling against the edges of the glass as they crack it away from the frame. Nancy runs upstairs in blind panic. Interior of Nancy's room, night. Nancy darts into her unlit bedroom, slams the door and locks it. Safe at last. She listens at the door. Nothing. She crosses to her bed. Next second, the killer dives through the window and seizes her in the shower of shattered glass. Nancy twists and manages to grab the wrist of his knife hand with both of hers, barely keeping the blades from her throat. The two fall backwards in a terrible gasping struggle, crashing onto Nancy's bed. Her grip is broken. The man stabs. Nancy twists away, backed into a corner of the bed and falls defenseless. She snatches a pillow up. The killer lashes out, disemboweling the pillow and sending a great gush of feathers flying. Nancy dives for escape in a virtual blizzard. The killer manages to snare her with her other hand, and two crash across the bedside table onto the floor, the table and all its contents cascading around them with a whiteout of feathers. Angle at the floor, close on Nancy and the killer's heads. The blades inch towards the girl's face, and drool of the grizzled shadow in the horrible scarred face pulls into eyes. Feathers are everywhere. Music is absolutely insane. But just then, when the points of steel are less than an inch from her eyes, the old-fashioned alarm clock thrown on the floor next to Nancy's head and goes off with a jar. Instantly, the music stops, and a moment later, the room is light. Whiter as Nancy reels up, blinded by the sudden light, screaming and fainting on her bed, or fighting on her bed, Angle on Glen, lurching from his own sleep and frightened at the noise. He discovers Nancy, pressed in terror against her headboard, clutching a pillow like a drowning woman would a straw. It's an intact pillow, and there isn't a feather in sight. Nancy stares incredulously at Glen, then around the room, untangling herself from her bedclothes, wary and furious, her voice hoarse.
Glen, you bastard!
The boy looks at his friend in groggy alarm. She's absolutely livid, more angry than he's ever seen her, and more strange.
What did I do?
He reaches for her. She flattens against the wall, eyes hard and terribly hurt, too. Low.
I asked you to do just one thing. Just stay awake and watch me. Just wake me if I looked like I was having a bad dream.
Eyes wild.
But you shit. What do? You fall asleep.
She stops herself, wiping a bit of spittle off her lip, alarmed at how out of control she's become. She suddenly breaks, sinking into her own torn bedclothes and rubbing her head, mostly to herself.
You must be going nuts.
Nancy?
Her mother's door opens off stage.
Oh, shit.
Nancy composes her voice the best she can.
Yes, Mother?
Marge flip-flops approaching outside of her door. Glen barrels out the window. Nancy dives for the bed, jams off the light, and disappears under the covers. Marge, bleary-eyed herself, opens the door and flicks on the light.
You okay?
Weakly.
Yeah, just a little dream. I'm falling right back to sleep.
Okay. You need anything? Just call.
Okay.
Marge closes the door. Nancy immediately sits up and looks at the window. A single bone white feather floats down into the moonlight. Then it's sucked outside and it's gone. Exterior police station night. Glen's Cadillac convertible careens into the parking lot and screeches to a stop. Glen and Nancy jump out and head for the station.
You mind telling me what's going on?
Nancy races to the station without answering.
Oh, I see. That makes it all perfectly clear.
Interior police station night. Nancy goes straight to the sergeant's desk.
Garcia, I want to see Rod Lane again.
Garcia winces.
I thought when I took the night shift, I'd have some peace and quiet for a change.
It's urgent. We've got to see Rod.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning, Nancy. Your mom know you're out this late?
Faking it.
Of course. Look, at least just go back and look at him. Just see if he's okay.
Garcia glances at Glen. Faking it.
We have a reason to think there might be something weird going on.
Oh, no argument on that.
Nancy jumps around at the sound of her father's voice. Lieutenant Thompson emerges from the office, rumpled and yawning.
Dad? What are you doing here?
It so happens I work here, and there's an unsolved murder. I don't like unsolved murders, especially ones my daughter's mixed up in. What are you doing here at this hour? You're supposed to be getting some sleep.
Listen, sir, this is serious. Nancy had a nightmare about Rod being in danger or something, so she thinks...
He trails off, losing it under Lieutenant Thompson's glare. Besides, he doesn't know exactly what the hell's really going on himself. Garcia puts in his beefy hand on Nancy's shoulder.
I just want to see if he's okay.
Take my word for it, Nancy. The guy's sleeping like a baby. He's not going anywhere.
Interior cell block night. Angle on Rod in a cell. He's asleep all right, but not safely so. His bed sheet has come alive. It twitches, pulsates, then snakes towards his throat. Rod stirs. The sheet falls still. Rod sleeps and slips into a deeper sleep, and the sheet moves again, completing the noose around his neck. Interior booking room night. Nancy makes a move for the cell block.
This isn't your average nightmare, Daddy. Damn it.
The door's locked. She hauls on it in desperation.
Now look, Nancy, don't push it. You've already rubbed my nose in sex, drugs, and violence. Don't start throwing in insanity.
Nancy takes that one to heart. She wheels on him, pleads, her intensity sobering even to him.
Just go back and check, please.
The man takes a beat, then shrugs and nods towards Sergeant Garcia.
Okay, Garcia, what the hell?
Right.
Feeling in his
Where'd I put
pocket.
the keys?
He mumbles back towards his desk. Music builds as we hold on Nancy's face. Interior of Rod's cell, night. With a terrible snap, Rod's sheets jerk tight around his neck. The startled teenager is hauled upright, his eyes popping, face purple. He claws at the sheet, but despite his strength, he can't get his fingers between the noose and his windpipe. He's dragged backwards across the cot. Interior booking room, night. Garcia finally has the keys. Urged back on by Nancy, he fumbles with the lock. Interior Rod's cell, night. Rod's being dragged backwards, gasping and struggling in vain against the powerful pull, right across his cell and up the wall, too. He clutches blindly at his throat, but at the far end of the sheet coils around the bars of the high window. Then there's a powerful wrench of the sheet, and Rod's neck snaps. The kid's body sags, lifeless. Angle through the bars as Nancy, Glen, and Lieutenant Thompson and Garcia appear in the corridor outside, the girl sprinting ahead.
Rod!
But it's too late. Nancy sinks back in horror as her father and Garcia rush into the cell.
Give me a hand, damn it!
Glen, pale as the sheet that's killed Rod, climbs into the bars and unties the knot. Rod slides down over the sergeant's shoulders and limp as a marionette with its strings slashed.
That damn loco kid. You didn't have to do that. Madre Dios.
They lay Rod at Nancy's feet, a strange pieta. Nancy's father looks at her in a spooked suspicion.
How'd you know he was going to do this?
Nancy says nothing. Fade to black. Exterior Forest Lawn Cemetery, day. Burn on, the 4th day. Fade up on a stark afternoon, on a hill of sere grass overlooking the valley. The casket of Rod Lane is lowered onto its grave. A small group of family and friends watches soberly as the minister raises his hand in a benediction.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. May God be with this young man's soul.
On the faces of Marge, Lieutenant Thompson, Tina's mother, and Rod's parents, just for a second or two, and looks too rapid for an outsider to even notice. These adults exchange looks, furtive, quick glances that suggest an immense something that they'll all share, something beyond even this second death among their children. Then they are all staring ahead again, as if the others weren't even there.
His life and his death attest to the scripture's warning that he who lives by the shore shall die by the sword.
Angle on Glen, watching. Nancy standing alone, not believing for a minute.
But let us recall also our Lord's admonition that we judge not lest we be judged. Let us attempt only to love, and may Rod Lane rest in peace.
Quietly.
Amen to that much.
The mourners walk away from the grave, Marge among them. She pauses near a man and 2 women in black, Tina's mother and Rod's parents. They almost, it seems, speak. Then Marge hurries on. We move with her as she's joined by Lieutenant Thompson. Both are worn and on edge. Thompson absently lights another cigarette, offering one to Marge.
How's Nancy doing?
I don't think she's slept since. Or I don't think she's slept since Tina died.
Shakes her head.
She's always been a delicate kid.
Thompson lights her cigarette, attempting some sort of nonchalance.
She's tougher than you think. Any idea how she knew Rod was going to kill himself?
No. All I know is this reminds me too much of 10 years ago.
Thompson blows a plume of smoke against the hard sky and looks away.
Well, yeah. Let's not stop digging up bodies just because we're in a cemetery.
He gives her a look that could cut stone. Marge tosses her cigarette and crosses to Nancy. The girl is simply staring off over the valley, very gently.
Time to go home, baby.
She moves her away from the brink of the hill. Exterior cemetery parking area, day. Marge opens the door of the station wagon for Nancy. Nancy turns to them both, speaking in a still, small voice.
Killer's still loose, you know.
She has a wild Cassandra aspect that sends a chill right up Marge's spine.
You saying somebody else killed Tina? Who?
Nancy smiles a weird sort of smile.
I don't know who he is. but he's burned. He wears a weird hat, a red and yellow sweater, real dirty, and he uses some sort of knives he's got made into some sort of glove, like giant fingernails.
As Nancy has described the monster from her dream, unseen by her, the faces of Marge and Lieutenant Thompson have drained completely of color, low even to Marge.
I think you should keep Nancy at home a few days till she's really over the shock.
I got something better.
To Nancy.
I'm gonna get you help, baby, so no one will threaten you anymore.
She takes the girl by the arm and guides her into the car, locking the door from the outside. Nancy, never taking her eyes from her father's as the car bears away. Fade to black. Burn on the 5th day. Exterior UCLA School of Medicine Day. Fade up on UCLA Westwood's campus and pan to a sign. UCLA School of Medicine, Institute for the Study of Sleep Disorders. Interior, a laboratory sleeping chamber. A nurse applies sensors to the head, breast, arms, and fingers of Nancy Thompson. The girl is lying in a simple broad cot in her pajamas. The room is subdued in color and holds only the single bed. A large mirror set into one wall hides an observation room beyond.
But I just don't feel ready yet to sleep yet. Please, do I have to?
Whiter, revealing Dr. Samuel King, a young, curly-haired internist, intelligent and wry. He treats Nancy at all times like a young adult, never patronizing. He winks at the nurse as the nurse finishes.
Hey, don't worry, you're not gonna change into the Bride of Frankenstein or anything.
Nancy manages to smile, but she's haggard and visibly thinner. Marge, background, looks downright distraught.
Nancy, have any severe childhood illnesses, scarlet fever, high temperatures, concussions?
No, nothing.
He means, did you ever drop me on my head?
The doctor and the girl share a nervous laugh. Marge doesn't even smile.
Nightmares are expected after psychological trauma. Don't worry, they go away.
I sure as hope so.
I don't see why you couldn't just give me a pill to keep me from dreaming.
Everyone's got a dream. If you don't dream, you go,
He drills his finger at his temple.
all set?
No.
They're just simple tests, Nan. We'll both be right here.
Look, I know it's been frightening. I know your dreams have seemed real, but it's okay. Okay?
Please, Nancy, trust us.
The girl gauges her mother and the doctor, the situation, very carefully, then lowers her eyes.
It's not you I don't trust. It's...
Gives up.
Okay, let's do it.
Greatly relieved, Marge gives Nancy a goodnight kiss, then follows the doctor through the doorway near the mirror. As soon as her mother is out of sight, Nancy's eyes drift to the mirror itself. In its reflection, she sees herself looking back, alone, on the bed. Dissolved to the interior of an observation room. Marge and Dr. King overlook Nancy's sleeping chamber through the one-way mirror, and King monitors the girl even more closely with the bank of instruments, a mass of glowing dials, graphs, and meters. His manner with Marge is slightly more sober.
How long has this been going on?
Since the murder. She was fine before that.
Not to worry. No signs of pathology in Nancy's EEG or pulse rate. I guess what we've got here is a normal young girl who just happens to have gone through 2 days of hell.
It's just made her think. Her dreams are real.
King adjusts the dial, watching the EKG like a hawk.
Ever hear the old Buddhist tale about the king who dreamed you as a beggar, who dreamed you as a king?
Marge twitches. Then there's a slight alteration in the sound of the EKG. King nods in satisfaction.
Okay, good. She's asleep.
Immensely relieved.
Thank God.
Music rises solemnly, majestically into a haunting transition as we dissolve to a montage of shots of the EKG graph, its inky needles calming of a meter tracing the quieting of Nancy's pulse, and other instruments indicating life's process we can only guess. All smoothing out. Close on Nancy on TV monitor, asleep like the child that she is, innocent. Marge lights a cigarette, angry at her helplessness.
What the hell are dreams anyway?
Mysteries, incredible body hocus pocus. Truth is, we still don't know what they are, where they come from. As for nightmares,
Lean closer.
did you know that in the last 3 years, 20 Filipino refugees in California died in the middle of nightmares? Not from heart attacks either. They just died.
He gives an, I don't know, shrug. Marge looks out onto the sleeping room. Nancy is a motionless bundle in the middle of the bed. Engel on a needle on each kg, dipping to a lower reading. Whiter Engel, the mother and doctor, watching.
What happened? That needle sank like a rock.
Quietly.
She's entering deep sleep now. Heart rate's a little high due to anxiety, but otherwise, she's nicely relaxed. All normal. She could dream anytime now.
Beat.
Right now, she's like a diver in the bottom of an ocean no one's mapped yet, waiting to see what shows up.
Interior sleeping room. We can see Nancy drift from the initial stage over the brink into a deep sleep. Her hair falls into her eyes, her face relaxes, her shoulders curl around like her light comforters. The music deepens and begins to hint at the tones of the nightmare theme. Interior control room, day. Dr. King and Marge watch the instruments every move. One of the machines begins a slight chirping. King scans it, liking what he sees.
Okay, she started the dream.
He leans forward in his chair like a pilot starting on an instrument approach. Marge Thompson licks her dry lips, fighting a turn of nausea.
How can you tell?
REMs, rapid eye movements. The eyes follow the dream. The movement picks up on this.
He prods a dial with a pencil and scribbles the time on a notepad.
Beta waves are slowing too. She's dreaming all right. A good one too.
Marge watches the TV monitor. It's an extra close on Nancy's eyes, and they're darting beneath the lids, reacting to events lost beneath a skein of flesh and neurons. King points to a moving graph. The needles begun waving lazily between plus and -3. The doctor nods, assured.
Typical dream parameter. A nightmare now, but it'll be plus like -5 or 6. She's just around 3.
He stops, outside visible through the glances. Nancy twists around, eyes still closed. She's nevertheless holding her head in the attitude of prey, listening to the first faint sound of a predator's approach. Marge looks from her daughter to the doctor, color draining from her face.
What the hell's this? She's awake or asleep?
The needle of the graph gives a jagged pitch up, plunges, then surges well above the 8 mark. A strange music cue, dissonant and threatening, creeps in. The music, the nightmare theme, slurred into an awful minors and a weird dissonance. King stared at the gauge in disbelief, wrapping his fingers on the glass.
Can't be. It never gets this high.
Needle swings even higher, behind.
Jesus H. Christ.
He's cut off by the high-pitched keening of the girl, the sound cutting through the double thickness of the glass like a laser. A warning beeper has begun. The instruments light up like a Christmas tree, and outside in the sleeping room, Nancy is contorting as if shot through 1,000 volts. King knocks over his chair and is sprint for the door. Interior sleeping room. The doctor and Marge come in on the run. Nancy's flailing and screaming as if the devil himself were after her. King grabs her to shake her awake. Angle on Nancy, eyes open, looking in terror. Sound echoed strangely in her POV. Dressed in King's clothes, the horribly scarred man reached out. Wider, Nancy's eyes closed in sleep. The girl's fist shoots out with incredible force and knocks Dr. King flying. The nurse and Marge both descend on her. And again, in her sleeping POV, we see a man stagger for her. Wider on Nancy, still in her nightmare, fighting like a tiger with both Marge and the nurse, sending the nurse sprawling, leaving Marge hanging on for dear life. Angle on the stunned doctor, fumbling with the hypodermic needle, spilling most of the stuff on himself with his shaking hands, and screams and curses of Nancy are deafening and worthy of a Steadover fighting off his worst enemy. Stranger still, her hair is electrified, standing on end and graying before their very eyes. Marge screams at the top of her lung.
Nancy, it's Mom! Nancy!
Some deep bolt of psychotic power smacks through the girl and eyes flap open. They're glazed with terror and fury, but open. Nancy's awake. She stares around like a cornered animal in the middle of the bed, her purple face gasping out gut-wrenching sobs. The nurse and Marge dare to go back and hold the sweat-drenched girl as Dr. Keames comes for her with a needle.
This is just going to let you relax and sleep.
With incredible swiftness, Nancy backhands the hypodermic and onto the far wall, shattering it into a million pieces. Leila, you're still muted.
No, that's enough sleep.
Her eyes are widened straight into white fire as she locks into King's face. He dabs the split lip, swallowing painfully.
Okay, kid. Okay, fair enough.
He holds out his hand. Nancy, at last, takes it and sags back into her pillow, exhausted. Then King comes up with blood on his hand. Oh, this is still me. He stares at it, dumbfounded, then at the girl across her left forearm. A deep gash is bleeding freely, as if made by a very sharp instrument.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Get the kit. The nurse scrambles away as the doctor claps his hand over the wounds. He looks onto Nancy's face. What he sees frightens him even more. Nancy's haunted, ghost-like eyes turn from him to her mother, and a terrible, chilling smile across Nancy's face with white lips.
You believe this?
She pulls her free arm from beneath the sheets and reveals a strange hat, filthy and worn. The killer's hat. The sight of it frightens Marge more than anything that's come before. Deathly pale.
Where the hell did you get that?
Nancy fixes her with X-ray eyes.
I grabbed it off his head.
Marge stares at the hat as if it's been held her whole future, and her future was a horror. Fade to black. Exterior Nancy's house day. Burn on the 6th day. Fade up on Nancy's house early morning. Interior Nancy's kitchen day. Marge is on the telephone, the dirty hat in her hand. Nearby is an empty bottle of gin.
She said she snatched it off his head in a dream.
Listens.
No, I'm not crazy. I've got the damn thing in my hand.
Listens.
I know we did. We all...
Here's Nancy approaching.
Gotta go.
She hangs up and scuffs the hat and bottle into a drawer, screening the action with her body. Nancy enters. By now the girl has an extraordinary look. Her hair is ashen, her skin is translucent, and eyes dark ringed. Her right forearm is heavily bandaged over the slashes. In short, instead of the girl next door, we could now be looking at the lunatic from the next cell. Marge, though she does her best to hide it, is downright frightened of her.
You didn't sleep, did you? The doctor says you have to sleep or you'll...
Nancy pours herself a cup of black coffee.
Oh, even crazier?
I don't think you're going crazy. And stop drinking that damn coffee.
Did you ask Daddy to have the hat examined?
I threw that filthy thing away. I don't know what you were trying to prove with that, but...
Nancy comes closer, her eyes shining with new sureness.
What I learned at the dream clinic, that's what I'm trying to prove. Rod didn't kill Tina and he didn't hang himself. This guy, he's after us in our dreams.
That's just not reality, Nancy.
Furious, Nancy janks open the drawer and before Marge can stop her and spills the bottle and hat onto the counter. Marge grabs away the bottle protectively, but it's the hat Nancy goes for. She waves it triumphantly, demonically.
It's real, Mama. Feel it.
Horrified.
Put that damn thing down.
Marge lunges for it. Nancy leaps out of reach.
His name is even in it. Written right in here. Fred Krueger. Fred Krueger. You know who that is, Mama? You better tell me. 'Cause now he's after me.
Marge swallows, then persists in the lie.
Nancy, trust your mother for once. You'll feel better as soon as you sleep.
Nancy shoots a hard, humorless laugh, holding her up her slashed arm.
You call this feeling better? Or should I just grab a bottle and veg out with you? Avoid everything happening to me by just getting good and loaded.
Marge slaps her hard, losing it.
Fred Krueger can't be after you, Nancy. He's dead.
The room falls silent, both women staring at the other, low and raw.
Fred Krueger is dead. Dead and gone. Believe me, I know. Now go to bed. I order you. Go to bed.
Marge snatches the hat away. Nancy is furious, betrayed.
You knew him all this time. And you've been acting like he was someone I made up?
Marge pulls away.
You're sick, Nancy. Imagining things. You need to sleep. It's as simple as that.
Nancy wheels and smashes Marge's bottle of gin in the sink.
Screw sleep!
Nancy!
But Nancy runs past her mother for the front door.
Nancy, it's only a nightmare.
Nancy turns to the doorway.
That's enough!
On the door slam, we cut to exterior Shakespeare Bridge day, angle on a neighborhood street. We hear Glen's voice and pan up to reveal Nancy and Glen high above, two tiny figures walking across the strange white bridge in old Los Angeles. Camera begins a slow zoom.
Whenever I get nervous, I eat.
And if you can't do that, you sleep?
Used to. Not anymore.
Glen jams one more Big Mac into his face. Now our by now, our Zoom reveals he's attacking a huge bag of Big Macs and furtively eyeing Nancy. The girl's hair is startlingly white in the sunlight, and she's reading a book, hardly paying attention.
You ever read about the Balinese way of dreaming?
No.
They got this whole system they call dream skills. So if you have a nightmare, for instance, like falling, right?
Yeah.
Instead of screaming and getting nuts, you say, okay, I'm going to make my mind that I fall into a magic world where I can get something special like a poem or a song.
Grins, hopefully.
They all get their art literature from dreams. Just wake up and write it down. Dream skills.
He stops, seeing the look on Nancy's face. Our Zoom is much closer now, a wide medium, and still coming in on the kids. And what if they meet a monster in their dreams? Oh, sorry, Nancy.
Okay. And what if they meet a monster in their dream? Then what?
They turn their back on it? Takes away their energy and it disappears.
What happens if they don't do that?
Shrugs.
I guess those people don't wake up to tell what happens.
Great.
Just a pause real quick. Louisa, can you stop messing with your phone? It's very distracting. Okay. Thank you. All right. She leans over the railing, poking her face back into her book. Glen tips its cover and reads its title. Our Zoom is still moving closer, a medium close-up now.
Booby traps and improvised anti-personnel devices?
I found it at the Sneak Survivalist bookstore in Ventura.
Well, what you reading it for?
Our Zoom locks in on a tight two on their faces. Nancy's grimly determined.
I'm into survival.
She walks away, out of frame, leaving Glen watching her after in astonishment.
She's starting to scare the living shit out of me.
Exterior, Elm Street, Nancy's home, evening. Angle across Nancy's tree lawn, the grass between the sidewalk and the street in the general direction of Glen's home. This angle doesn't quite reveal Nancy's house. Foreground is a utility truck in which half a dozen Hispanic workers are loading tools, extension cords, and hardware. They look like they've put on one hell of a hard day's work. Marge appears and hands a check to the foreman of the crew, a white guy in clean overalls and a gold chain. He scrutinizes it. Keith, are you the foreman? He scrutinizes it. Foreman says, and the other? Marge forks over a wad of cash, hands trembling in her half-drunk, helpless rage.
Where's your mask and gun?
Foreman counts the money swiftly.
Don't bust my chops, lady. If the city found out I put him in without inside releases, I soon lose my license.
He shoves the money in his pocket and climbs into his truck. Marge exits the frame of her house. Pan with the truck as it pulls away. Then pick up Nancy, walking across the street from the corner, alone, dispirited. He lifts her eyes to her home and then stops in her track.
Oh, gross.
Whining to reveal the house as Nancy walks across her front yard. Every single window has been covered with brand new ornamental iron bars bolted deeply into their frames. Closer at a window, Nancy gives a set of bars a powerful shake. They don't budge. Then girl looks up and sees the window to her second floor bedroom is barred, and the rose trellis has been ripped down and heaped in the foundation of a tangle of wood, thorns and broken flowers. Interior of Marge's room, evening. Angle on the doorway into the hall. Easy listening music wafts through the air. Nancy appears in the doorway.
Mom, what's with the bars?
Reverse to Marge, propped against the headboard of her bed, a crooked shadow in the gloom. A fresh bottle of gin glints her hand.
Oh, Mom?
The girl crosses and reaches gently for the bottle. Marge snatches it away.
It's mine.
She rocks the bottle in her arms.
What's with the bars?
Security.
Nancy sits on the bed, surprising compassion entering her voice.
Mom, I want to know what you know about Fred Krueger.
Dead? and gone.
I want to know how. Where? If you don't tell me, I'm going to call Daddy.
Marge gets a last rasping cachinnation of her deep in her chest.
Your father, the cop. That's a good one.
Colder.
Forget Fred Krueger. You don't want to know. Believe me.
I do want to know. He's not dead and gone. He's after me. And if I sleep, he'll get me. I've got to know.
Marge blinks at her a moment, then cracks a terrible crooked grin.
All right.
Interior Nancy's cellar night. Marge drags Nancy headlong down to the cellar stairs across the room with a crazy fury, twisting her down near the foundation, and she thrusts her face so close to her daughters that Nancy reels from the alcohol.
You want to know who Fred Krueger was? He was a filthy child killer who got at least 20 kids. Kids from our area. Kids we all knew. It drove us all crazy when we didn't know who was doing it. But it was even worse when they caught him.
Marge draws herself up with a shake.
Oh, lawyers got fat and the judge got famous. But someone forgot to sign the search warrant in the right place, and Fred Krueger was free, just like that.
So he's alive?
Marge smiles grimly.
He wouldn't have stopped. The bastard would have got more kids first chance he got. They found nearly 10 bodies in his boiler room as it was, but the law couldn't touch him.
At the mention of boiler room, Nancy gives a shake. Marge misses this, too busy taking a pull on the bottle that's never left her hand.
What was needed were some private citizens willing to do what had to be done.
She reels slowly, looking at Nancy in defiance.
What did you do, Mother?
Marge cradles the bottle.
Bunch of us parents tracked him down after they let him go. Found him in an old boiler room, just like before. Saw him lying there in that caked red and yellow sweater he always wore, drunk and asleep with his weird knives by his side.
Dreading it.
Go on.
Marge reaches over and taps a dusty 2-gallon jug of gasoline near the lawnmower.
We poured gasoline all over the place. Left a trail out the door, locked the door, then...
She mimes striking a match. Her arms shoot up and her eyes go wide with the light of that fire. There's awe in her voice. Then she drops her arms, hushed, remembering.
But just when it seemed not even the devil could live there anymore, he crashed out like a banshee, all on fire, swinging those finger knives every which direction and screaming he was going to get us by killing all our kids.
She stops with a sudden quake and drinks for a long moment. But the intake doesn't hide the image, her face bathed in tears. She looks at her daughter and shakes her head.
There were all those men, Nancy. Even your father. Oh, yeah. Even him. But none could do what had to be done. Krueger rolling and screaming so loud the whole state could hear. No one could take your father's gun and kill him good and proper, except me.
She sweeps her hand across the air in a terrific slash, then stops, her hand shaking, her voice hoarse and terrified. She looks at her daughter, begging.
So he's dead, Nan. He can't get you. Mommy killed him.
For someone who started this film at a very young 15, Nancy's now the battle-tempered veteran, and she takes her mother in her arms and rocks her.
Who was there? Were Tina's parents there? Were Rod's?
Marge sags back.
Sure. And Glen's. All of us. But that's in the past now, baby. Really. It's over.
Slyly.
We even took his knives.
The woman twists around and opens the door of an old furnace, a furnace unused since the newer gas one nearby was put in. She fishes inside the cavity, and then we hear the touch of the familiar scritch. Next moment, she pulls out an object wrapped in rags, opens it, and displays the long, rusted blades and their glove-like apparatus.
See?
Nancy stares at the damn thing, chilled.
All these years, you've kept those things buried down here? In our own house?
Proof he's declawed. As for him, we buried him good and deep.
Marge shoves the knives into their hiding place, closes the little iron door.
So it's okay. You can sleep.
She lurches up and staggers upstairs. Nancy shivers and looks down at her arm. Cut beneath her bandage has begun to bleed again, and from inside the furnace, as if from deep below, the pulsing of the boundless nightmare boiler room can be faintly heard. Exterior Elm Street, night. White on the street in both houses. Glen's on the right and Nancy's on the left. A telephone rings. Zoom in on Glen's upstairs bedroom window. Interior, Glen and Nancy's bedrooms, intercut. Night. Glen, yawning, crosses and picks up his telephone. You're muted.
Hello?
Hi.
Oh, hi. How you doing?
Nancy looks out the window and touches her hair.
Fine. Stand by a window so I can see you. You sound a million miles away.
In a lighted window across the way, we can see Glen move into the sight. In his shot, we see Nancy step into her window behind the bars.
Much better.
I heard your ma went ape at the security store today. You look like a prisoner of Zenda or something. How long's it been since you slept?
Coming up on the 7th day. Okay, I checked Guinness. The record's 11, and I'll beat that if I have to.
Beat.
Listen, I know who he is.
Who?
A killer.
You do?
Yeah. And if he gets me, I'm pretty sure you're next.
Glen is appalled.
Me? Why would anyone want to kill me?
Don't ask. Just give me some help nailing this guy when I bring him out.
Glen pales.
Bring him out of what?
My dream.
How do you plan to do that?
Just like I did the hat. Have a hold of the sucker when you wake me up.
Me?
Switching back to a more comfortable reality.
Wait a minute. You can't bring someone out of a dream.
If I can't, then you all can relax, because it's just be a simple case of me being nuts.
I can save you the trouble. You're as nutty as a fruitcake. I love you anyway.
Good. Then you won't mind cold cocking this guy when I bring him out.
What?
Simplicity itself.
You heard me. I grab him in the dream. You see me struggling, so you wake me up. We both come out. You cold cock the fucker, and we got him. Clever, huh?
You crazy? Hit him with what?
You're a jock. You must have like a baseball bat or something. Come to my window at midnight. And meanwhile,
Weekly.
Meanwhile,
whatever you do, don't fall asleep. Midnight.
She hangs up. Glen's eyes bug out.
holy shit. Midnight. Baseball bats and boogeymen. Unfucking real.
Exterior, the valley and hills, night. High, wide shot. The moon is above the horizon. A cool wind slides a bank of white fog inland. The valley and its lights stretch forever, an endless net of illumination and darkness. A coyote howls in the dark hill. Exterior, police station, night. A palm frond scuttles across the center of the parking lot. Lieutenant Thompson arrives in an unmarked car. Louisa here? No, Louisa's gone. Lexi, will you read cop?
Sorry, mute button there. Oh,
okay.
Lieutenant Thompson, what are you doing at this time?
I can't sleep. Thought I'd come break up the poker game.
The cop laughs and goes his way. Thompson smiles, evaporates. Interior police station, night. Thompson enters and checks the log. Nearby, Sergeant Garcia pours coffee.
If it was any more quiet, we could hear owls farting.
It is quiet, isn't it?
Too casually.
How's your girl?
Thompson looks at the desk sergeant a moment, then tosses down the log.
She's sensible. She'll sleep sooner or later.
Exterior Elm Street, night. The neighborhood is utterly still. Most of the homes already dark, but not Nancy's or Glen's. Zoom to Glen's lighted living room window. Interior Glen's living room, night. Glen's father watches the 11 o'clock news. A dreary film clip stock of war refugees in a faraway land. Mr. Lantz takes a pull on his bud.
You'd think they'd have something about the Lane kid hanging himself.
Mrs. Lantz walks through the room, drying her hands on a dish towel.
Maybe we're all making more out of it than we should.
She heads upstairs. Mr. Lantz pops the automatic tuner. Carson blinks on.
I wouldn't touch that line with a 10-foot pole.
Ed McMahon and the audience laugh in delight. Interior Glen's house, upstairs corridor, night. Mrs. Lantz comes along the upstairs hall and knocks gently at the closed door.
Glen, you all right?
She puts her ear to the door and listens.
Glen, honey?
No answer. Interior Glen's room, night. Glen lies sprawled across the bed, long legs flung over the end, head not visible. His mother enters. She looks at the boy, turns off the TV, looks at him again. From his angle, she can see his head, earphones crammed over it, rasping their tinny noise, but no movement from the kid at all. Mrs. Lantz crosses and pokes him in the ribs. Glen lurches up, arms windmilling.
What?
He refocuses his eyes and takes off his earphones.
How can you listen to Carson and a record at the same time?
Glen swings his leg over the ledge of the bed and shakes his head to clear the cobwebs.
Wasn't listening to the tube, just watching. Miss Nude America is supposed to be on tonight.
Well, how are you going to hear what she says?
Who cares what she says?
Mother gives up.
You should get to sleep soon, Glen. It's almost midnight. Goodness knows we've all had enough of a time the last few days.
I will, Mom. In a while. You guys turning in?
Pretty soon.
His mother sighs and goes out, closing the door behind her. Glen flips the TV back on and glances at the clock. Insert a clock. It's 11:42. Tight on Glen's face, he clamps the earphones back on and turns the volume up high. The music is so loud we hear it resonating inside his skull. Camera moves past Glen to his window, then zooms through to exterior Elm Street, Nancy's house, night. Continue zooming into the lighted window of Nancy's barred second-floor bedroom and cut to interior Nancy's room, night. Close on Marge, weaving on the edge of Nancy's bed, stroking the girl's hair. Nancy's still something of a wreck, but less than Marge.
We'll go away. Take a vacation. Get your hair colored nice, the way it was. No one will ever know.
Sniffs.
This whole room smells of coffee, you know?
She gathers up Nancy's coffee cups and empty no-dose boxes, leans in and kisses her.
It's all over now, baby. The nightmare's over. Please.
Nancy nods her head, half stubborn, half sadly. She can barely keep her eyes open now.
Okay.
She scrunches into her pillow. Marge smiles haggardly and shuts off the light, taking the coffee pot with her as she leaves.
Good night.
Marge smiles, relieved. The girl pulls the blanket around her shoulders, her eyes fluttered closed. Her breathing becomes regular and deep. Once again, she's a little girl Marge fantasizes she is. The mother tiptoes out of the room, closing the door behind her. Hold on Nancy's sleeping face as the door closes. Her eyes remain closed another beat, then open wide. She quietly jumps out of bed and shakes herself savagely to scatter the sleep settling so quickly. Still in the dark, she fishes a full electric coffee pot from under her bed and pours herself a fresh fix into a mug she digs from beneath her pillow. The face illuminated by the neon light on the pot is set in absolute determination. Nancy drains the cup, then crosses to her closet, retrieves the pitcher of ice water from behind the heap of clothes and splashes her eyes in the back of her neck. That done, she eases open her window and presses her face to the bars, sucking in cool night air until every shred of sleep is gone from her brain. Then she starts pulling on clothes. Interior, Nancy's house, downstairs, night. Real quick, before we get too far, do we need another break? Everybody good? Keep going? Cool. Interior Nancy's house, downstairs, night. Angle on Marge as she checks the lock from the back door. Firm. Angle on the living room as she pads through her darkened house, feels her way through the hall shelves and takes down a book. Then another and a third. She reaches and fishes out a bottle of gin. Exterior Nancy's house at Elm Street, night. The sky has gathered in greater darkness. Low, distant thunder rolls out of the horizon like a dark drum. Angle on Nancy's house from across the street. The moon glints off the barred windows. Cameras zoom on Nancy's window. She imprisons the girl, hovers in the darkness beyond the grill like a ghost, her eyes turned towards Glen. Then she switches to something much closer to camera angle, and she draws back. Reverse on Glen's father, standing on the front porch of his home, also in the shadows, looking straight across and up at Nancy. He draws on a cigarette. His face glows red. Nancy pulls down the shade. Glen's father grinds his cigarette beneath his shoe.
Shouldn't stare.
The man turns, our shot widens to reveal Mrs. Lantz.
Know what? I think that kid's some kind of lunatic.
The woman spoons more sweetness into her mouth and rubs her forehead.
You shouldn't say such a thing about the poor child. If you mean the bars, well, Marge just being cautious, her being alone and Nancy acting so nervous lately.
The woman rises and pulls him gently towards the living room. As he goes inside, he takes one last look.
Well, she ain't got to hang around our boy no more.
Once the two are inside, the door is locked. Interior, Nancy's room, night. Close on Nancy's face. Very close. Her eyes stare ahead, red-rimmed, anxious. She picks absently at the thick bandage covering her forearm. The long cuts from Fred Krueger's fingers are bleeding again, but she doesn't even care anymore. Too late to sweat the small stuff, she crosses the room. On the bedside table with nearly empty box of Pyrex coffee maker, an empty cup, and an empty box of No-Dos is her old-fashioned alarm clock and phone. Nancy pours herself the last cup of coffee and drinks it to the dregs, then looks at the clock. Insert clock, 10 minutes to midnight. Nancy eyes the door. Wider, fully clothed and in a jacket now, she creeps to the door and cracks it just to make sure, then freezes. Interior hallway outside Nancy's door. Interior POV, through the door we see Marge rummaging around in the linen closet, not 15 feet away. There's no way Nancy can get past her. The woman pulls out a full bottle of gin in satisfaction and begins fumbling with its cap. Interior, Nancy's room, night. Nancy eases the door closed again and then sinks to the keyhole, watching through it with a sinking heart. Very quiet and very intense. Leila, you're muted.
Sorry. Hang on, Glen.
Interior, Glen's room, night. Glen, coat on now, close to a window, checking. Interior, interior, Elm Street, night. Glen's POV, Nancy's porch is deserted, front door closed, lights out. No sign of Nancy. Interior, Glen's room, night. Glen shrugs, takes off his jacket, and plops back onto his bed.
Well, I'm not gonna risk sneaking out until she does.
He puts the earphones back on. Interior, Nancy's room, night. Absolutely frustrated, Nancy turns from the keyhole to the window. She opens the blind and eases back the curtain. Exterior, Elm Street, night. Interior, Nancy's POV through the bars. We zoom directly across to Glen's window. Interior, Glen's room, night. Glen lies on his bed, fully clothed, earphones over his ears, Carson droning from the TV, and the boy's eyes begin to droop. Interior, Nancy's bedroom, night. Nancy picks up her phone, bites her lips, and then begins dialing. Interior, Glen's room, night. Tight on the phone, it begins ringing loudly. Wider shot, revealing Glen asleep in the background, the music still loud in his earphones. Interior, Glen's living room, night. Ringing here too, just as Mr. Lantz is turning out the lights for bed. He stops in the dark, scowling.
Who at this hour?
He refuses to turn the light back on. His wife picks her way to the telephone.
Hello?
Listens, frowns slightly.
Oh, hold on.
Covers the mouthpiece.
It's her. She wants to talk to Glen.
The father crosses to the telephone, suspicious, whispering.
What?
Into the phone.
What's this about, Nancy?
She listens, covers up again.
She says it's private. Very important. Private.
Mr. Lantz grabs a telephone from his wife and barks into it.
Glen's asleep. Talk to him tomorrow.
He slams the telephone down and grunt satisfaction to his wife.
Just got to be firm with these kids, is all.
Then, as a refinement, he takes the phone off the hook and lays it on the table. Interior, Nancy's room, night. Nancy dials again. This time she gets a busy signal. She slams down the phone in frustration and looks out the window.
Glen, don't fall asleep.
She goes and sits on the bed, propping her chin on her fists, yawns. The telephone rings.
Glen?
Tied on her, zooming even closer on her ear in the earpiece as we hear the awful screeching scrape of steel finger knives. Nancy slaps the phone down as if it were diseased, then in pure rage rips the thing's cord from the wall. Spent instantly, she puts the receiver back on the cradle and lays it on her bed, chiding herself.
Brilliant. Now what if Glen calls?
She wraps the phone cord around the useless machine and puts it on her bed and sneaks back to the door. This time she gives an expression of relief and opens the door. Marge is gone. Then the telephone rings again. Camera moves in on Nancy as she turns slowly. Reverse in her POV. The telephone rings again, despite the fact that the end of it is janked out cord is clearly visible. The nightmare music theme slips right up our spines. Back on Nancy, she starts to shake. She goes to the telephone as we widen, unwraps it, and it rings even louder. She's shaking so hard she can barely manage to lift the receiver. Move in close on her, so close we can hear her teeth chattering as she brings the phone to her ear.
Hello?
The unmistakable voice of Fred Krueger comes on the phone, garbled by time and unknown dimensions, but clear enough, triumphantly.
I'm your boyfriend now.
Close on the mouthpiece. It's changed from a normal telephone mouthpiece to an actual mouth. Fred Krueger's mouth, and his long, slick tongue flicks out and darks into the girl's mouth. Whiter as Nancy explodes from her micro dream, absolutely mad. She jerks the telephone away from her and smashes it against the wall, then attacks it with her feet and hands, smashing it to smithereens. Angle on the telephone pieces, normal pieces of a normal telephone. She pinches herself hard until tears come and her flesh is nearly bleeding. I'm awake. I'm awake. Oh, sorry. God damn it.
You're okay. I'm awake. I'm awake. This is not a dream. I am.
She stops, realizing what Krueger meant.
My boyfriend.
Interior Nancy's living room night. Nancy barrels down the stairs, across the darkened living room, and to the front door. It takes her a moment of tugging and fumbling to realize the deadbolt is locked from the inside. There's no key in it now. She races to a porch window and throws it open, shaking and banging through the bars like a mad woman. There's no getting through. She staggers back, stymied and furious. Then somebody moves behind her in the dark. This is
Locked.
Nope, this is Marge.
Oh, sorry.
The voice?
The voice is Marge, yeah.
Oh, locked.
Nancy jumps around in shock. Her mother has posted herself on the couch with a bottle, furious.
Give me the key, Mother.
I don't even have it on me, so forget it.
The word is final. Nancy runs past the woman to the back door, to the window, one after the other, shaking the bars, slamming the locks, and screaming in teenage fury. But it's no good. The house is her prison. Drunk satisfaction.
Paid the guy damn good to make sure you stayed put. You ain't going nowhere, kid. You're gonna sleep tonight if it kills me.
Nancy clenches her fists and screams at the top of her lungs, a heart-wrenching, eardrum-breaking cry of love and despair.
Glen!
Interior Glen's room night. Close on Glen's from directly above. The music is tinny from the earphones, the TV sound distant and echoed. The boy is breathing deeply now, slowly and gently. Then, unmistakably, he begins to snore. Very faintly, far in the background, we hear Nancy.
Glen, don't fall asleep.
Camera pulls back and straight up as the snores merge with the weird, unsettling music cue. The boy lies sprawled, still clothed in the middle of his bed, save for the bedside lamp. The room is dark. Full wide angle from the high spot, looking down from his eyes, looking down at him from the eyes of some great fly hung on the ceiling. The music reaches a terrifying pitch of anticipation, then stops abruptly. There's a heartbeat pulse. Then, with tremendous force, two powerful arms shoot up from beneath the red and yellow bedspread and grab Glen down around the waist. Next moment, the young man's body is dragged straight into the bed, as if some beast had grabbed him and heaved him down. His feet and arms shoot up, and there's another hauling yank, and the boy disappears, except for his hands and fingers down into the pit in the middle of the bed. His hands are last to go, crawling for a hold, but soon they vanish as well, dragging blankets and bed sheets, wires and stereo across the caved bed and into the abyss. There's hideous screeching of music, jamming with Glen's echoing screams, then unholy sudden silence. Next moment, what's left of Glen is vomited up from the pit of the nightmare bed, a horrible mess of blood and bone and hair and wires streaming out from over the bed. Then the pit in the bed is gone, as if it were never there. Drawn by the terrible screams and struggle, Glen's mother bursts into the room. The woman stares for a moment of horrified disbelief and then reels back and lets out the most god-awful scream imaginable. The cry splits the night. Interior Elm Street night. The sound of the scream crossfades with the wall of the ambulance, and it screeches to a halt at the curb, followed by two black and whites and an unmarked car. Uniformed policemen spill out foreground. Lieutenant Thompson Parker exit the unmarked car. By habit or by premonition, Thompson glances at the house that was his home. His eye is caught by a movement. His daughter is at her upstairs window, white-haired, hollow-eyed, looking down at him through the bars. She gives a little wave. Unnerved, Thompson waves back, then walks rapidly for Glen's home. Mr. Lantz, pale as a ghost himself, waits on the porch. We can hear the mother wailing inside. Interior Nancy's room, night. Close on Nancy's big old wind-up alarm clock. It's big and little, and hands sweep together at midnight. Burn on the 9th day. There's a babble of police radios, sirens breaking down, running footsteps, shouts, neighborhood kids, and dogs barking as camera lifts to Nancy's face, set, unafraid, ruthless. The girl pulls the window shade on it all, then looks at her bed.
I keep doing that. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, Kruger, you bastard. You play in your court.
Interior Glen's living room, Nancy's kitchen, intercut night. Lieutenant Thompson is halfway across the living room when he stops. Something dark and red is welling from a crack in the ceiling. One of his men is rigging a bucket beneath the cat to catch the leaking. The telephone rings and Parker picks it up.
It's your daughter. She says it's urgent.
Thompson turns away from the dripping, low.
Tell her I'm not here. Tell her.
She just saw you, sir.
Thompson nods, crossing and picks up the telephone. Screen splits. We see both.
Hello, Nancy.
Hi, Daddy. I know what happened.
Then you know more than I do. I haven't even been upstairs.
Guessing.
You know he's dead, though, right?
Thompson debates and admits it.
Yeah, apparently he's dead. How the hell do you know?
A tear courses down Nancy's cheek, but her voice remains firm.
Got a proposition for you. Listen very carefully.
Man,
Please. I'm gonna go get the guy who did it and bring him to you. I just need you to be right there to arrest him, okay?
Just tell me who did it and I'll get him, baby.
Fred Krueger did it, Daddy. And only I can get him. It's my nightmare he comes to.
The detective flinches at the name.
Where'd you hear about Krueger?
Nancy presses, very firm, very rational.
I want you to come over here and break the door down exactly 20 minutes from now. Can you do that?
Sure, but...
That'll be exactly midnight. Time for me to fall asleep and find him.
Sure, honey. You just do that. Get yourself some sleep. That's what I've been saying all along.
And you'll be right here to catch him, right?
Sure, okay.
Yeah,
I'll be there. Now you just turn in and get some rest, sweetheart. Please. Deal?
Deal.
Nancy hangs up. Lieutenant Thompson starts upstairs, but then he stops. Just as an afterthought, he could never really explain. Turns to Parker.
Get outside and watch your house. If you see anything funny, call me.
Anything funny like what?
Thompson shakes his head, embarrassed.
I don't know, but one thing for sure, I don't want her coming over here. She's way too far gone to be able to handle this.
As Parker exits, angle cuts to Nancy's kitchen as the girl hangs up and sinks back against the wall, trapped by her own resolution. She looks at her watch. Insert 5 past midnight. Nancy watches the modes of the stopwatch and sets the countdown going at 25 minutes. Interior Glen's bedroom, night. Lieutenant Thompson steps into Glen's room, anxious to be done with it. He hits a wall of stench and horror even before he takes it in with his eyes, and as soon as he sees the bed, claps his hand over his mouth, pivots, and walks right back into the hallway. Interior hallway, night. Sags against the wall, unable to look at the cops and whoever's there.
What the hell did that? Lieutenant, there ain't even a head left.
God damned if I know.
Tries to straighten.
What's the coroner say?
He's in the John puking since he saw it.
Interior cellar, night. Nancy pulls tools and hardware to the with grim resolution. Hammer nails, spools of wire, old square of heavy fish netting, some old shotgun shells, a file referring only once to the booklet in her hand. Interior Nancy's living room, night. Barely able to control her shaking hands, Nancy starts stringing off the spool of wire across the living room, crying and swearing at the same time. Dissolved to her hands, wrapping bare lamp wire around the 2 thumbtacks stuck into the insides of the pinchers of a common wooden clothespin. The wire goes off screen. Another angle as she inserts a lifesaver between 2 prongs on one end of a fish line is tied to the lifesaver. The hole now is stretched taut about 3 inches off the living room carpet. On Nancy carefully filing a hole in a light bulb. On her pouring powder of shot from shotgun shells into the opening of the light bulb until it's full, then sealing it with tape. Dissolving to her screwing the bulb back onto the floor lamp and placing the thing near the front of the stairs. Interior, Nancy's upstairs hallway, night. Nancy completing installing a sturdy sliding bolt into the outside of her own bedroom door. Nancy screws in a hinge into the wall directly above her door. Attached to the hinge is a shank of something, some kind of tool. We can't see what it is because camera never quite frames out the whole thing. Nancy tiptoes to her mother's door and peeks in. Interior, Marge's bedroom, night. Marge lies propped on her bed looking at Nancy. Her drunkenness has altered by the sirens and babble outside of a sort of comatose clarity.
Guess I should have not done it.
Just sleep now, Mom.
Just wanted to protect you, Nan. Just wanted to protect you.
Marge slides over her side. Nancy smooths her hair, covers as she would a child, and then exits the room. Interior, Nancy's room, night. The girl enters, turns out her bedside light, slips on her dress, and puts on her nightgown. Then she kneels by her bed, quietly.
Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take.
She gets in the bed and pulls the blankets to her chin. Close on Nancy's face, she stares straight up at the ceiling for a long moment and then closes her eyes. Cut to interior, Glen's living room, night. Lieutenant Thompson trudges down the stairs and confronts Glen's father.
I know it's hard to think of at a time like this, Walter, but can you think of anyone who would have done such a thing?
The father stares away, his voice low and dull.
He done it.
Thompson looks at the man, baffled.
Who? Who did that?
Kruger.
Kruger?
The father gives him a strange look.
Had to have done it. No one else was in there.
How do you know that?
Because I thought Glen was going to sneak out to see your lunatic daughter. That's why. So I locked him in his room.
Getting control.
Sorry. Anyways, the door was still locked when we heard the screams.
He blinks.
Maybe God's punishing us all.
Much lower and hard.
Keep your head. This is a fucking flesh and blood killer we're talking about.
Like Rod Lane?
A voice calls down from upstairs.
Lieutenant Thompson, Coroner wants to show you something.
Thompson gives Mr. Lantz one final look, then heads upstairs. Cut to note. I'm not going to read that note. Interior, downstairs, Nancy's house, night. Low angle upstairs as Nancy appears at head. She comes downstairs. Camera moves with her through the hallway to the cellar door. She opens the door. Interior, Nancy's cellar, night. Nancy appears at the top of the stairs, hesitates, then comes down. Wider as Nancy approaches the sound of the room, stops in close-up, then turns eyes. We hear the distant sound of the boiler room now, faint, but unmistakable. Nancy moves and the camera pans her to the cellar's wall where another new doorway is revealed. Nancy opens the door and looks down. Firelight on Nancy's face now, and the sound of the boiler room is very, very clear. Nancy goes to the door, interior boiler room. Nancy descends like Orpheus into hell, but without weapon to save her wits. She descends a still stair to the lowest level, then hears the sound of knives from another shaft. She sees there's an even deeper place down there. She starts down, and again, and then again, Nancy descends with each ladder narrower, more twisting, each level deeper, wetter, darker, more airless. Soon she's gasping for air, but she still pushes herself on and doesn't stop until she breaks out one last very bottom of the place, a wet, fire-lit sump deep in the bowels of the place. Camera now pans around with her, and for the first time we see the vast maw of the empty boiler behind her. She stares at it, it's seething with some dark wind that sows and whines like a huge dying dog. Nancy crosses to it, touching a pile of old, coal-dusted dirt at its base. It looks almost like an old grave. She turns suddenly, listening, then, hearing nothing, she looks down. Nancy's POV and picks up Glen's earphones, wider as she suddenly drops them, staring at her fingers. They're dripping with blood. Another beep. Insert on Nancy's watch. The countdown, a blur of black digits, counting down to 0. They've just crossed the 10-minute warning. Close on Nancy's face, she speaks into the night, quietly. Uh-oh. Did Nancy have to go? Okay, Marilyn, can you read Nancy? Marilyn, you're
Are we at 180D?
yes. Sorry, she had a
Got
she
you.
had a call she had to go to.
Gotta come out and show yourself, you bastard.
No sooner are these words off her lips than the huge bulk of Fred Krueger lurches up behind her. The man is even more hideous and hateless. The bald head and tormented face veiled in skeins of ruined flesh and his ragged barred teeth. This great spider of razor blades flashing from his fingertips. He leaps out, but the girl leaps just as fast, a fierce jump that sends her out over the black space and down into a huge dark sump of blackness. Exterior, the heavens night, close angle on Nancy as she curves like a swan through her apogee and begins falling and diving, planing through the back air and wind ripping her at her hair and eyes. Suddenly, the complex glittering skein of light that is the San Fernando Valley, seen from the air, slides into frame. And we see she's falling from high over the earth. Nancy falls in slow motion against the spinning lights, free as a skydiver free falling, giddy, and acrophobic plunge. Exterior, Elm Street, Nancy's house, night. Nancy crashes suddenly out of the night and into the hedge just outside her own front door, rolling out its bottom scratched and bloody. As if she were any normal reality, she'd be a mass of broken bones, but somehow she's able to claw her way up and look at her watch just once more. Insert just a few seconds from 0. She staggers for her house's front door, but a moment later, Krueger crashes down atop her. Nancy struggles to her knees, but just as the man lunges for that god-awful handful of blades, but instead of running, she ducks inside the garbly grab and seizes him in a desperate bear hug. The surprise move sends him pitching backwards, and still on him, they fall into a jumble of torn down trellis of roses beneath her window. Almost at the very second, we hear jarring, deafening ringing of Nancy's alarm clock. Smash 2, interior Nancy's bedroom, night. Nancy sprawls out of her bed onto the floor, twisting from the jabs of the already vanished thorns, briars, and bushes. Gasping, she takes a second to get her bearings. Angle on the bed as she recovers quick as she can, snatching up the net, ready for an assault of any direction, but the room is empty. Hardly able to catch her breath, her hair tangled, her nightgown torn, she drops the net. She sits on the bed, turns on the bedside lamp, and re-examines her room. No one is there but herself. It's a terrible blow, despite the fact that she's safe. Her face is covered with tears. She's shaking and breathless. She rattles her head in confusion and despair, realizing her own madness.
Crazy after all.
At that very instant, Fred Krueger leaps from the far side of the bed with an explosive shout of rage. He lunges across the table for her, missing by inches as Nancy pitches backwards and scrambles for the window, but she's stopped by the bars. Krueger, incredibly fast, regains his feet and leaps again. The girl wheels and shatters a coffee pot over his head as he crashes backwards and flings open the door of a room, dives through, only to rebound off someone on the other side. Interior hallway, night. Marge, knocked by the flying of Nancy's charge, hits the floor hard, knocking the wind out of herself. Nancy sees what she's done, jumps over the body and slams the door and throws the new bolt home. Next instant, she gingerly tries to string the door's knob, the string that trails down from the ceiling attached to something up there that's still just barely out of sight. Next instant, she's dragging her mother toward the woman's bedroom as fast as she can. Krueger is already splintering the doorway behind her as Nancy dips and makes into Marge's room, slamming the door behind her and locking it in a flash. The maniac breaks the bolt and rips open the door, but in the very act of doing this, the corpse unknowingly pulls the string attached to the outside of the doorknob with terrific force. Close angle on the ceiling. The string jerks against the single-edged razor, which in turn cuts the tight wind of cord, holding a heavy wedge of steel to the ceiling. Wider as the thing falls free, pivoting in the hinge of the far end of its handle and drives straight into Krueger's groin with a terrific blow. As he catapults backwards with incredulous shriek, the 20-pound sledgehammer swings back and reveals the camera just what it is. Angled down on Krueger, clawing his way despite his agony, lurching and cursing forward like an enraged bull. wider in the angle as Kruger roars out, only to immediately strike the length of wire strung across the hallway, catching it just above the thigh. He cartwheels head over heels and lands on his back. Instantly, the door to Nancy's mother's bedroom flies open and Nancy brings a brass lamp down over Kruger's head with all of her might. It sounds like a line drive caroming off a metal flagpole. Nancy slams the door as Kruger struggles up, clutching his head. Enraged, the huge man crashes against the door with terrific force and rears back and starts smashing against the door like an utter homicidal lunatic that he is. Cut to Elm Street, Nancy's home night. At high angle of the second floor level, Nancy jerks open the window to her mother's bedroom and jams her face into the bars. The ambulance is pulling away with tremendous wail of its siren as Nancy screams down, trying to make herself heard.
Help! Hey, Daddy! I got him trapped! Where are you?
Angle on the street, Parker, assigned to the guardhouse, sees Nancy, hair white, eyes wide, pounding on the bar, screaming like a lunatic, but her meaning is utterly lost in the noise in the ambulance next to him, yelling up at her.
Everything's going to be all right. Everything's under control.
Angle at the window, close on Nancy's face, incredulous at his response.
Get my father, you assholes.
Parker does a little take that almost sounded sane.
You heard what I said. Now get back inside or I'll tell your dad.
Behind her, the door splinters. Nancy whirls around just in time to see Kruger bull in. Nancy's eyes go wide. She's trapped against the bars and has nowhere to go. The man bunches his eyes into a single thick blade and rushes her, stabbing. Nancy closes her eyes. Then, from out of frame, Marge leaps between the two.
No!
She blocks the charge perfectly, blocking the knives. Both she and Nancy are slammed backwards against the bars behind. Drunk though she is hanging onto Kruger's weapon hand, keeping the knives inside herself, away from her daughter.
Nancy, for God's sakes, run!
But Nancy turns to the window instead, screaming for her father.
Daddy, where are you?
Elm Street night. Parker, just about to turn back to the business of Glen's house, sees Nancy and someone else fall just inside the window. Something begins to dawn on the man, just a little.
The woman's got her hands full with that kid. Maybe I better tell the lieutenant.
He turns and jogs towards Glen's house. Interior, Marge's bedroom night. Angle on Kruger, hauling Marge up in rage, knocking her senselessly across the bed and climbing after her with the knives raised. Nancy wheels behind him and whams him in the kidneys with her fists, spilling him back off of the bed and then running past him for the door. She makes it to safety, then turning back. She flips the monster, the bird, her eyes wild, her pain in fury.
Hey, fuckface. Can't catch me.
The bait works. Kruger leaves Marge and howls after Nancy. Interior upstairs hallway night. As Nancy clears the hall and makes the upstairs, Kruger lurches through the shattered doorway after her. Interior living room night. The girl careens down the stairs across the room and to the front door, banging against it with terrified fury, screaming.
Come on, he's in here. Daddy, don't let him kill me too.
Behind her, the man is thumping down the stairs, knocking things over, scraping his long steel fingernails along the wall with a horrible sound. Nancy flings the ashtray through the porch window and screams through the bars.
Help! Daddy!
Kruger, bloody and spewing threats, staggers for her. Nancy dives behind the couch. Close on Kruger's feet, they hit another wire. Close on Lifesavers jerking out and clothespins snapping together, completing the circuit with a crackling spark. Wider on the explosion that rips out the floor lamp next to Kruger, who knocks him sprawling across the floor. Nancy peeks out from behind the couch. The man lies in a smoking heap. Nancy runs to the windows and screams out again.
Hey, Daddy! Hey! I got the bastard!
Kruger roars up behind her and throws herself sideways. She crashes into the window frame, smashing glass and wood into bits. Nancy turns screaming and runs deeper into the house. Interior cellar night. She careens down the stairs, throwing the lights. The man thundering after her. Anger at the far end of the cellar. Nancy breaks the wall, nowhere left to hide. Then, scraping the blades against the brick, turns to see the huge killer holding his knife-laden fingers up for her.
Ready for these?
On Nancy, she ducks behind the furnace, comes out the other side with a big jug of gasoline and lets Kruger have it straight over the head. The heavy container shatters, showering its contents over every square inch of the man. He staggers backwards with a roar of fury. Nancy screaming after him with a box of kitchen matches. Before the man can realize what she's up to, she ignites the whole box and throws it in Kruger's face. There's a blinding whoosh, and Kruger goes up in a terrific ball of fire. Faster than a flash, the girl runs past the howling maniac and makes for the stairs. Kruger after her in full ferric rage. Interior, Nancy's kitchen night. Nancy, hold the kitchen heavy door into precisely the right moment, just as the burning blind monster tops the stairs. Nancy brings the heavy oak door around with all of her might and catches him in a great ringing concussion. It sends him windmilling backwards and down the stairs as an ass over tea kettle sprawl of sparks and flames. Nancy slams the door and throws the deadbolt home. No sooner does she accomplish this than the man is slamming again and again against the door from the cellar. The terrible screams and curses peak, then grow weaker and more garbled. Then there's just silence. Nancy staggers half blind from the kitchen, and the room begins seething smoke from every pore. We cut to the interior of Glen's upstairs hallway night. The coroner steps out of the bathroom, peeling bloody rubber gloves, pale and sweating.
Found you something, Donald. Should remind you of something.
The man shoves his hand to Lieutenant Thompson. Thompson stares at it without touching it. A long, thin steel blade, razor sharp, attached to some sort of ring armature, broken off. The coroner gives it a sweaty, grim smile.
Only place I ever heard of such a thing before was 10 years ago. Remember that fucker, Fred Krueger?
Lieutenant Thompson has just knocked Parker sprawling in his race to the stairs.
Hey, your daughter's acting kind of
Thompson's gone.
strange.
Exterior, Nancy's home night. Crash as Nancy breaks another window, pressing it against the bars. The house shudders and glows orange behind her. She sees her father bursting from the front door of Glen's house.
Dad, get us out of here.
Oh, Jesus! Nancy!
To his men.
Hey, we got a fire!
Angle on Nancy's front door. Many men batter the door down as black smoke pours from the window and Nancy's screams and shouts fill the air. Within moments, they destroy the door and Lieutenant Thompson has pulled his daughter into safety of his arms. But Nancy immediately fights free and darts right back into the front door, beckoning him to follow, gesturing like a wild woman.
I got him. I got Fred Krueger.
Thompson stares at his wild little girl in astonishment, then runs in after her. The others follow, coughing and choking. Interior living room night. Thompson collides with Nancy as she breaks frozen. The smoke is belching out of the cellar, but whoever is locked in there certainly isn't now. The door is flat on the kitchen floor.
What the hell are you talking about, Nancy?
Nancy wheels without answering. A series of tiny isolated fires burn across the living room up the stairs. Fire steps.
He's after Mom.
She darts across the living room, following the flaming footprints of Fred Krueger and up the stairs before Thompson can stop her.
Nancy!
Interior, Marge's bedroom night. Nancy stops at the splintered doorway, a ragged gold-red light splashing from her horrified face. Reverse on her POV, Fred Krueger, literally a man of fire, has a screaming Marge pinned to the bed and is crawling over her. Nancy gives a banshee's howl and snatches up a chair and brings it down over the back of the fiery beast, stunning him. By the time Lieutenant Thompson rages into the room, Nancy's seized a heavy blanket and is thrown over both of them, fighting the flames. The father joins his daughter without a second thought, heaving another blanket over the bed and smothering the last of the flames.
He's under there. Watch it.
Thompson pushes the girl back, yanks out his .38 and pulls off the first cover. No movement. He pulls back a second one, ready to fire, but the only thing he sees is the blackened half-skeleton of his ex-wife, smoking and seething and sinking into the fluid-like mattress, sinking right down through it as if she were sinking into the lake. A blackened, gnarled hand goes at last. Then the bed solidifies over the place and she's disappeared, as if no one was ever there. Nancy turns and looks at Lieutenant Thompson, her face white as her ghostly hair. Thompson shoves his .38 back into its holster and finds a cigarette, his hand shaking so badly he can barely manage.
Now do you believe me?
Parker barges in. The room is filled with smoke. The bed is stripped, but other than that, the place seems normal.
You find him?
Looking closer at Thompson.
Sir?
Lieutenant Thompson just walks by him. Parker chases after, fading. Keep going, Keith.
Sir, here. Let me light that for you. Lieutenant, what happened?
Wider on Nancy, alone in the room. She turns and looks at the bed. Music slips in and builds. The bed has changed color. It's now an ash darkened red and yellow, closer on Nancy from the direction of the bed. Music suddenly stops, and the surface of the red and yellow bed gets bump in center that keeps rising, rising until a hump that's a head and shoulders, rising until it looms over Nancy. Then Fred Krueger's entire shape sweeps into the yellow and red mass. The garish head, smoking and seething, pops through. New angle, Krueger, burned and sizzled black hump of a killer, clumps onto the floor between Nancy and the door. Nancy falls absolutely still, and her face goes through a strange, almost sublime transformation.
I know you're there, Krueger.
She turns and faces him.
You think you was gonna get away from me?
Nancy shakes her head.
I know you too well now, Freddie.
Krueger smiles bitterly, coming closer.
And now you die.
There's a slickering rattle at his side, and he raises the only thing on him that's not charred, the gleaming steel talons. Nancy simply shakes her head again, as if seeing a light at the end of her long, long tunnel, and the way she says the words, they might be appearing in the inside of her eyes.
It's too late, Krueger. I know the secret now. This is just a dream, too. You're not alive. The whole thing is a dream, so fuck off. I want my mother and friends again.
Krueger grins insanely, confused and amused at the same time.
You what?
Even firm.
I take back every bit of energy I ever gave you. You're nothing. You're shit.
And then she turns her back on him. Krueger bunches his razor fingers, producing a single ragged bundle of razor talons, and raises his hand over her head and back, the back of her head and neck. Nancy closes her eyes and steps to the door, close on her hand, touching the doorknob, close on Krueger's knife fingers poised. Music builds and then shrieks as Krueger stabs down right through Nancy, as if she were an optical illusion, losing his balance and falling down, 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 and he's gone. Cut to exterior Elm Street day. Close on Nancy's front door as Nancy jerks it open and blinks in the bright, diffused light. The music fades on a transitional note into the light. We hear birds, children playing. Early morning sounds, to herself.
God, it's bright.
Marge sticks her head, squinting and nodding, sober.
Gonna burn off soon, or it wouldn't be so bright.
Nancy turns to look at her mother.
Feeling better?
They say you've bottomed out when you can't remember the night before.
Shakes her head.
No more drinking, baby. Suddenly, I just don't feel like it anymore.
She touches Nancy.
Didn't keep you up last night, did I? You look a little peaked.
Nancy smiles.
Nah, just slept heavy.
The girl gives a wave and goes off. Marge calls after her.
See ya.
Nancy turns and waves.
See ya.
Wider on Nancy as she walks to the curb. The whole scene is wrapped in an unseasonal tulle fog, bright yet diffuse. We notice that Nancy's house no longer has bars on its windows. We see a familiar convertible pull up at the curb, top down. Tina and Rod are in the back seat. They all gave a wave to Marge as Nancy climbs in.
You believe this fog?
I believe anything's possible.
Tina slaps a high five with Nancy.
Looking good, girl.
Angle inside the convertible. Glen slips into the seat next to the Nancy. Someone else is driving, it seems. Nancy looks up at the driver. A big man turns and grins at Nancy, a terrible, scarred, hideous leer of a grin. Fred Krueger's grin. Angle back outside the convertible as it clamps over the kids within. The bright red and yellow top that closes as fast and hard as a bear trap. Nancy's frightened face flies to the window, pressing against the thick glass of the car, roars away from the curb and into the thick fog. Camera pans to a group of little girls, half hidden by the fog, jumping rope and singing gaily.
1, 2, Freddie's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, get your crucifix. 7, 8, gonna stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep again.
Music crossfades with the song, expanding into a simple two symphonic boundless dimensions as the little girls fade into thin air and we fade to black. Roll the titles.
Yay!
Now, that read took a little longer than I expected, so there's not much of a discussion I think that we can have other than, did you guys have fun?
Yeah, it was good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool, it was riveting.
Learn
Brought back some memory.
Yeah, did you
I
guys
remember
learn
watching
something
this
from
when
the
it first came
experience?
out. Yeah.
I want you guys, because we were going to discuss like the above the line crew. I want you guys to research the director, the writer, whom I think is the same person,
Yeah.
casting director, the producers, all of that kind of stuff. And as if this was 1984, right? You will see the films that they did before this had come. And then since it's not 1984, we can see all of the films that they did afterwards. Okay. And that's kind of what I want you to notice. I want you to start researching all of the above the line crew, and seeing what they've done before. And then IMDb is awesome because they have things that are upcoming. But then I want you to start looking at Variety and Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, all of those Backstage, all of those publications, and Googling those people and see what else they're doing. If you like their work, follow them, find them in film festivals, find them in all the other kinds of things so that you can start to get to know what they're doing and keeping an eye out on anytime they're casting anything. That way, if you're like, I am in love with this franchise or whatever, you will know to be able to call your agent, or you can dry submit or whatever from there. But this is a way to A, study scripts and writers that you like, and B, start learning about whom you need to get into your circle somehow, some way, right? And take more control over those introductions. Okay. All right. So I would love to have had a longer discussion after this, but I don't want to keep you. So glad we got to finish the script. Congratulations to everybody. Have a blast. If anybody wants to stay and ask questions, I can stay for a few more minutes. If you want to stay, I'm happy to stay and ask questions.
I just wanted to share one thing is that I was researching the movie and I found out that scene where they shoot the blood geyser out of the bed. So I guess Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger, there was like electric equipment everywhere, and I guess it wasn't done right, and everybody was at risk of being killed because of that. God. Yeah, so he said that I just find it kind of funny because Freddy Krueger, he's dressed up and everything. He said he grabbed Nancy, who played Nancy, he grabbed her hand and took her off set because it was just everywhere, like just water, and then there was electric fire that happened. Just crazy. It was like 500 gallons of fake blood. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. So
and they said that they had to use colored water because the like stage blood wasn't like gushing like they wanted it to. So it was literal water. So if you imagine, I mean, if the electrician did their job right, you know.
Oh man, yeah, it was bad apparently. So they didn't know, and I guess it could have been a lot worse. They got very lucky. And I guess England, it's not only he kind of like saved her, though it's just funny that was his first instinct as Freddie could just see him, come on, Nancy, let's get out of here, and grabs her. You know, it's it'd be kind of weird to see that on set. I think just kind of funny.
Yeah.
And interesting.
The villain saving the protagonist.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, he seems like a really cool guy, Robert Englund. I was looking up him quite a bit, and he seems to just kind of been on board with this since day one, and he just gets he has a lot of fun. You can tell.
Bye, John. I see you waving. I'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Ashley. That was great.
I'm happy. Yeah, it was nice to see you. I'm happy to stay for anybody that wants to stay and talk and ask questions and visit.
Bye.
I know that you might have to leave. All right. That was fun. Anybody else learn something that wants to share and can stay? No, nobody.
I thought the writing was great. I thought some of his descriptions were awesome. Like it was almost like a 15-year-old kid excitement, you know, when he'd write some of those descriptions, like really.
Except some of those words are not 15-year-old words.
Right.
Those are some SAT words that I had to look up. I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, he definitely has that teenager excitement though in his writing. I can see it. Like he's very like hopped and excited, you know, and full of passion and this happened and this, like a kid telling a story, you know.
You can also tell that he was writer director, by the way, because writers technically shouldn't be writing the cut to zoom in on, you know, all of the director notes. Technically a screenwriter shouldn't be writing that in, right? Like that's for directors, that's how they tell their stories, is how they want what camera angles and whatever. So you can kind of tell somebody that's a writer director by the fact that they're putting all of that in, right? And that's part of their storytelling as they're writing. They're like, nope, we're going to start on this wide, and then we're as more and more reveals, we're going to get closer and closer and closer and closer until we're like right on these two, right? That kind of thing is a good clue if you've got a writer director on your hands.
So good.
Yeah. It was really good. And
I
the
did not
writing
expect
was
it to be
really
that good. I really didn't. I didn't expect the script to be as good as it was. I saw the movie when I was a kid. I was like 6, you know, it was horrible. My dad even said he'll never watch a horror movie again because of this. So, I mean, this is like a huge part, I'm sure, of a lot of our lives. This movie was around.
Yeah.
I just never took the time as an actor just to go in and study the script, and man, it is just brilliant. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
really brilliant writer. I never thought it was this good until I actually read it, you know.
Yeah.
So interesting how it translates. I mean, on screen it's really awesome. It's just you know, you really get into his head a little bit more, Wes Craven, by reading it than just watching it, you know.
Yeah.
So
John, did you have a question or were you waving?
I do. No, I do. First of all, thank you all for letting me be a part of this. This is my first time ever doing something like this since decades ago back in high school, but it was a lot of fun. One question I would like to pose to all of you with substantially more experience than I do. When you're reading a script, I can see how even with a part like, you know, Sergeant Garcia, you put a lot of time and practice and energy into it. And I think as a default, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of your own personality gets in there. You know, I wear glasses, and so, you know, a lot of what I would do when I'm frustrated is, you know, get in here and rub my eyes. So to what extent do you all, or are you allowed to add some of your own personality, you know, and kind of character traits into it? In other words, instead of saying, you know, watch out, isn't he behind that thing? Whereas you'd be more comfortable saying, is he not behind that thing? You know what I mean? Or saying somebody's name before the phrase rather than after.
Well, I would be careful rewriting the script. Number one, right? So what you're asking is two different things, right? So the first one being if you're rewriting the script for a table read, you've got the script in front of you. For rehearsals and stuff, sometimes that happens, right? But we want to try to be as close to the writer's intent as possible. If you're with the writer and / the director and you want to have a discussion because you don't feel like the line is working for you, then A, you got to learn out why. You got to go, why is this not working for me? Am I not connected to something somewhere? And B, it might be, you know, not all films are written as well as this one, right? And it might be poorly written in some way that's not connecting for a reason. And you can talk with the writer director in a professional way to rewrite the line if you need to rewrite the line. But the question about inserting your own personality, 100% insert your own personality. That's what makes you creative, and that would make you you as an actor. That's why John Rico brings his own twist to Sergeant Garcia than Samuel would, or Grant would have, or Keith would have, or Skyler would have, right? That's what makes your take on the character. Your take on the character is your personality and your little idiosyncrasies, whatever you say the word, right? That's what makes
that's right. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's close enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add to that?
I think that when you have a good grasp of your own authenticity, to put yourself into any character is going to just unlock all kinds of things in the process that you didn't even know that were there because of that authenticity that is stemming from yourself. So I mean, if you have that with the character, you are the real person in this situation. That's just, you know, it's just the make-believe character. So really at the end of the day, you have to be in there, you know. And if you say a line that sounds right to you, and I wouldn't think about it too much. I would let go into the part, be in it, and don't lose sight of where you're at either. Like, you are the actor in the shoes of the character and you're playing it. You're playing make believe. So I think it's a simple process. I think it just takes time, and it takes practice like anything else. You got to keep, you know, like stuff like this is great. I think this is one of the best ways to get that out, you know, just to read, you know, anything, magazines, books. But really ultimately it comes down to, yeah, man, you're really, you know, you are who everyone's watching, and they want to see how, you know, can I believe this guy? Do I believe the words that are coming out of his mouth? You know, so if you believe it, don't think about the little things here and there. If you really believe it and you're in there, confidence doesn't even matter anymore. You're there. You're not even thinking anymore. You're there. So yeah, always don't be afraid to put yourself or to show yourself who you are.
I noticed I definitely noticed that in some of you when you were reading through, especially and props to was it Monique? Marge? Yeah, like I could almost like smell the liquor on your breath. I don't know if you were intentionally trying to, but it was just so subtle, like in some of the things you were doing, like wow, that's really good. How did she, you came across not like completely hammered, but like it brought me into the scene. So good job.
Oh, thank you.
Subtle things
Thank
like
you
that.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Monique and Grant both carrying some of the notes that we had on our audition consult. You carried some of those notes over into your performances, or I heard.
Yeah.
I had so many lines that I really wasn't able to look up much, but I could hear the changes. Lexi,
Yeah, the
I
notes you
saw
gave me definitely. Oh,
I saw you wave your hand. I didn't know if you had a question or if you were just agreeing.
Oh, I was gonna answer as well,
Sure.
because I studied like Stravinsky, Meisner, and Chekhov, and I can't remember who said it was like you want to add playing as truthfully as you can under imaginary circumstances because this is your truth. It's just that you're playing to an imagination, but everything's real for this character.
Yeah. Yeah. If when you're building out the realities and the experiences that this character is having, you're naturally gonna use a little bit of what you would do in that situation. Like if since it's John that asked the question, if you were a sergeant, working overnights, how would you behave? Well, you wear glasses, so you would mess with like you would do those kinds of things. And then you layer on the different circumstances that's going to happen, right? Obviously, you've never been through multiple murder situation where your children are dying, so you've got to look, then that's when you use your imagination to start filling in those blanks and you pulling from what you would do versus like, okay, I think this character is a little more stoic than I am, so maybe I'm going to tamper down X, Y, or Z, but it starts from you. That's what makes you the artist, for sure.
Thank you. And thank you all for your for answering. I appreciate that.
Anybody else want to discuss? I can stay for a few more minutes before I have to pee and go to my next meeting.
I just wanted to say thank you, Ashley, for putting this all together, and you guys read wonderfully today. This was like my introduction to like this movie and to Wes Craven, so I've enjoyed getting into these horror films. And I did want to add something that you said earlier, Samuel, about this being so well written. I did read that this was recently added. I think in 2021, this movie was added to the Library of Congress, so it's kind of like gotten its flowers recently. So I think that's yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, we're going to be doing these twice a month, and the Killer Moves audition is live right now. We have until Friday to submit. I'm going to try to do them different times of the days. I'm going to try to do Wednesdays mostly. I know the next one is going to be on a Tuesday just because it worked better with my schedule, but it'll try to be Wednesdays, and they'll try to move different times of the day so that some people that can't do mornings can do evenings or whatever. So Killer Moves is coming up. We've got the Level Up live audition workshop. If you guys want to practice your workshops with me, the two of you that are in this room, and Skyler, we kind of had a little bit of an audition thing on our talk.
Right.
It's good to get in there, practice your auditions. I'll give you some feedback live, and then we'll do it again, kind of practice things. So Monday nights, sign up for those. Next Wednesday, we're going to be watching The Shining, or watch The Shining before, but then we'll discuss The Shining. Okay, so watch The Shining before and discuss The Shining. And then the boot camp. So nobody that's been in here has been on the boot camp before. So the boot camp is an 8-week program. I want to highlight it because it's my favorite thing. It's an 8-week program. It starts in May, goes through June. And I produce 2 micro short films for you each. Okay, 2 short films, 1 comedy, 1 drama. I help you, coach you through the character. I help with props and costumes and getting all of that kind of stuff together. And then that 8th week is actual in Los Angeles. I hire a soundstage, I hire a film crew, I hire other actors to act across with you. It's a 2-person scene. It's going to be edited perfectly so that you're like the star of your scene. And you're going to get some high quality demo footage for your demo reel. You also get 2 headshot looks by Vonnie Poirier Photography, who is a huge portrait artist out there. And then you get a one-on-one consultation with Stephanie, whom y'all met at the beginning of the series. And so that's the Talent Launch Boot Camp. It's a lot of fun. It's obviously a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. And we're all out there in LA for a whole week, jamming out some short films and
Cool.
getting some experience. Okay.
Can I find this on your page or Instagram?
Yeah,
page?
it's on the
Okay.
webpage, the
Okay.
pricing and all of the details. If you want to take a look at it, if you have any questions, just let me know. If you want to schedule your audition consult, do that. You get one free one, and every time you audition, if you want, or if you have another audition, you want to put it on tape, and then you want to schedule a 30-minute consult with me too, that's fine. That's a coaching session, whatever you guys need. I love coaching. It's a lot of fun, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I'll say that. So I hope to get to
I
work with you.
appreciate it. I'm surprised you survived that whole read through.
Oh my God, there's so many words.
Your brain, I could almost like see your brain just like going like a brain freeze, just so much. Just
Yeah.
like, when is it gonna end?
No, not that for sure.
You got a six-pack on your brain now.
It definitely wasn't that. I was having a blast, but I was just like, please, all of the words come out of my
Yeah,
mouth.
all the words just like, yeah. Like, okay, that's it. Need a break.
Oh, awesome. Well, it was fun reading with you guys. I gotta go. I gotta
Likewise.
pee and get something to eat before my next meeting.
Appreciate
But
you.
I had a
Yeah,
blast
you guys
with
all
you.
did great too. Thank you so much.
I hope to
Appreciate
work with you all again. Okay. I'll talk to you soon.
Nice reading with you all.
So much.
Bye.
Bye.
Aw.